All right, how's everybody doing today? Just getting everything set up. Got a fun one today. We're going to be doing a TitusPi, which, if you're unfamiliar, this is a Raspberry Pi distro I kind of created about a year back, maybe 2 years. And it's getting a little long in the tooth. We need to do some updates. We need to do some window management, and then also kind of slim it down because the Raspberry Pi 4 I was using for creation of it is now being repurposed as my phone system. So I actually downgraded to a Raspberry Pi 3, and we're gonna load the image up on that, see where we're starting. But with if you're unfamiliar with the Raspberry Pi 3, it only has 1 gig of RAM, and I think we need to slim it down a little bit. But I think not only can we slim it down, but we can also make it look a little more sexy, and I think that should be good. How's everybody doing? We got Morgan in chat, Small, Mansour, probably said that wrong, but yeah, so it should be a pretty fun one. Let me move over a little, right? Come on, shift on over there. So yeah, we'll probably load this guy up and get going on it. I know this is probably a little more niche. I don't see too many people today. Del Salty, how you doing, man? Gerald, Ed, Niels, how's it going? It was sort of, yeah, it's a window manager distro, and the whole reason for window managers is because they're so lightweight. And the lighter weight something is, the better off you're gonna be. And it's so true with the Raspberry Pi. Raspbian, the Raspbian desktop that Raspberry team put together is awful. It's super resource intensive, and it looks terrible. And not only is this distro lighter weight, but it's actually a lot better to use if you were actually going to use a Pi for like a desktop. We got Peru in the house. Awesome. Yeah, I know this is going to be a little bit more of a lightweight stream than what we're used to, just because I know this isn't going to appeal to a lot of folks out there. So I imagine we'll probably only get like 50 or 60 viewers for this one. But Raspberry Pis are great too. Like, a lot of people don't understand, like, if you're trying to learn Linux or something like that, instead of like wiping out your main system and then just learning on the go, I really think you should just start with a Raspberry Pi, because it's so much easier to blow that up and you'll be like, oh, it's just a Pi. All right, we'll just reload it, try again. And when it's in your main box, it can be a little bit better. So a little bit worse off for you, because then you're like, oh crap, how am I going to get all this back? Or I need to do this. And with a Pi, it's a good break-in. So if you're a Windows user out there, or maybe even a Mac user, and you want to get into more of a Linux environment, Raspberry Pi is probably the best starting environment. And also, this stream, I moved my chat window to be right here instead of having to go over here, which is nice. The downside is I ended up moving, I think, the monitor we're going to be using for Raspberry Pi over there. So when we get on the desktop, we'll see how that goes. I wanted the Debian BSPWM for my Raspberry. You know, Morgan, we might try that. We can try that, because this is an image. TitusPi itself has been updated a couple times, and we're going to do a full update to it, but we're also going to look at what it is. Like I said, right now TitusPi is running, I think, around 500 megs fully loaded, and I want to get that down to probably 300 or 400 megs, just because I'm using a lighter weight Pi. So, Roberto, thanks so much for the super chat. I bought Wallpaper Engine, but it isn't on Arch Linux. Load up like a Windows VM and then install Wallpaper Engine, download it. I think Wallpaper Engine, you need to use KDE. There's a KDE add-in for you there, Roberto. That'll do it. Why not just dual boot? Dual boot is what my recommended next step is. So Raspberry Pi is good. It's just a lot of people screw up dual boots, especially newbies that are new to Linux. They'll try to dual boot and then they'll do something wrong, or they'll blow out their EFI partition and then all of a sudden they can't boot in their system at all. And that can be problematic. So that's why I always like, hey, learn the ropes on a Raspberry Pi is always probably the best recommendation. But then I say go to a dual boot system. And then once you get really, really familiar with on dual boot, then if you want to just make the full leap and just say, I don't need Windows anymore, I'm going to jump, then you can. Or at least maybe you know. Me personally, I still dual boot. And I never have just completely got rid of Windows, but Windows 11's really made me very, very angry lately, and so much so that I am basically creating like my own LTSC version of Windows that's just gonna sit there and not really update except for security updates, and I'm gonna pipe all my games directly in that to my Linux install again. So I'm probably going full-time Linux for the most part again, and then for any Windows apps I need or Windows videos, I'll just do like a remote share directly into my Linux instance and call it good. And then for the Windows users out there that see it, when I go full screen, they won't even know I'm in Linux, even though I'm doing a Windows video, which is kind of fun. Definitely. Hey, Sebastian, good to see you, man. Wayland and Pipewire for your distro. Really? You think Wayland's there, Sebastian? I need to give it another shake. I hate Wayland, but I'll give it another go. How do you install KDE on Windows? You don't. Well, I mean, technically you can do a little bit of DE on top of Windows. There's actually a GitHub project where you could install that directly on Windows, which would be kind of cool. So it's a thing. I would love to basically not boot into the Windows desktop and boot into a Linux desktop environment, but still have access to all of the things, man. That would be so cool. Max, thanks so much for the super chat, man. How can I set up custom shortcuts in Arch Manjaro? It depends on the distro or the desktop environments that's in there. Most people are like GNOME or KDE usually for their desktop environments. That's probably the most common thing. I used to say all the time, and maybe I'll start saying it again just because I think people need a reminder. Distribution is only a starting point. It's up to you to customize it. If you don't want to customize your Linux install, I think I've revised how I think of Linux, and if you're a Windows user out there, this is more directed to you, or maybe you're new to Linux. If you don't like Terminal and you don't ever want to get into Terminal, Linux is not for you. Full stop. I think you have to use Terminal. If you're not comfortable with Terminal or you never want to use Terminal, I think at the very least, if you're into IT, you should learn about it because you're going to be in there for a variety of different systems. Like Linux desktop itself is not very important to me. But I've been able to learn it very quickly because everything else in the world pretty much runs on Linux. So I learned all of the terminal and all that stuff back in the 2000s. And then from the 2000s, I was able to go into like telephony and some other branches of IT where I'd work on PBX boxes and build those out. And that was all done in Linux as well. So by the time I was doing all the other stuff there and I moved into Linux desktop, it was like, oh, okay, so you just throw some GUI components on top of what Linux is. But I'm to the point where I'm like, if someone just wants everything to work from a GUI, choose Windows or Mac. If you want a stable experience from a GUI and you never want to touch a terminal, choose Mac. So that's where I'm at with that. And I don't personally like Mac, but I do use it for like Final Cut Pro. It's just that's where I'm at. It's just terminal is needed for Linux, and it's a hard conclusion to come to because you don't want it to be that way, but it's Linux is really meant for that purpose. It's built for that. Can you do video through single GPU pass-through? Single GPU pass-throughs, it's rough. I hate single GPU pass-through. I'll never do a video on it just because when you do single GPU pass-through, basically what you're doing is you're turning off your video in your Linux instance, pushing that GPU to the Windows instance. If something happens back here, you have to basically shut down this instance to get your GPU back. And it's junk. It's complete garbage. I'll never do single GPU pass-through. Dual boot. You want to dual boot. You don't want to do single GPU pass-through. Cool, but no. You don't want to do that. Screen readers for Linux. Handicap and accessibility features in Linux are very limited. What do you think about the metaverse? I think it reminds me of like the big ICO boom of 2018. So what's going to happen with the metaverse is this. All these scammers are going to jump in there and be like, hey, we got our own metaverse. I want your money to get this virtual plot of land that there's only so many of. So hurry, act now in the next 48 hours. And then they'll try and pressure you in on like one of these NFT metaverse drops, and you're going to get scammed. Probably 99% of the metaverse stuff out there is just straight up scams. Nobody's done the metaverse properly yet. So right now it's a buzzword. It's going to be used and abused by scammers. Be wary out there. Is Arch Linux on a Pi a thing? It is. They do have an ARM spin of Arch Linux, and it's quite good. So I love it. Have you used Logic Pro in Mac? No, I need to get into the audio section of things, but I'm not a big audiophile. So what I do with my audio here is I try to curate my live feed as much as I possibly can to where it sounds good, to where I never touch it in post. So that's what I like to do, specifically for live streams. I want my live streams to sound just as good as my recorded video. And that can be a little difficult at times, but that's why usually I'm wearing a headset so I can kind of gauge the volume, kind of the mix, all the things as I do these live streams. So it's a fun thing, but I've got my audio pretty much dialed in to where it should sound good no matter what, and then I never touch it on post. And as I record, it's the same as my live streams. So everything is streamed and encoded at the time. I don't have any SD cards in any of my cameras. Everything is piped right into one central processing PC. It's kind of bundled up there, usually in a ProRes format, and then kind of kicked over to a NAS box. All this is automated. So I just hit record, it does all this, and then once it comes into there, it kind of gets just dumped onto my recording PC, which is Mac, which is a Final Cut, and then I pull it all in, and then that's where I start curating. I don't really do much in the way of color grading and a lot of the other stuff YouTubers do. I just, I don't know. I'm not very good at it, so I'm just like, okay. People watch me for the knowledge, not for the production quality, although I try and just make it to where you have good audio and the video isn't jarring like a lot of people do. Jump cuts, I hate jump cuts. I usually do J cuts instead. What's the state of para-virtualization? I'm not sure on that, Terry. Oh, yeah, I should be clicking on these. All right, let's move down. Well, what do you think of BSD? BSD is fantastic for server-related stuff, worthless as a desktop. Because you're going to be missing so many tools if you use it for a desktop. It's just not worth it. But from a server standpoint, it's amazing. I also like the licensing of BSD, where it's all MIT licensed, I believe, and you can just do whatever the hell you want with it, which is great. That's why PlayStation is BSD based. Netflix uses BSD. A lot of things use BSD on the back end. Will the debloat tool? Yeah, that's what I'm actually using on there. I've actually added and upgraded the tool to include some things you're gonna miss from Windows 10. The big things are the sound. Sound in 11 is terrible. And 11's making me so angry that I'm just gonna start to pipe any Windows apps probably into a Linux install. I still use some Windows stuff, so I can't just do anything with that. I don't really have a Discord server per se. I kind of do, but it's for Minecraft. So I do a Minecraft server, usually with my daughter. We'll jump in there. Minecraft.christitus.com is the address. We have a website, Discord server, and then also that's the address you connect to it. So very easy to do. Javier, a question. What mic are you using? I am using the PR40, and I've done a lot of different tests to see which mic gives the most clarity. A lot of people go for like this radio announcer voice. You've reached WRT 64, blah, 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 blah. I hate that boomy. It just is unnatural. It's this producer type voice, and I wanted it to be more natural. So that's why I went with a Heil PR40, and I also changed out the Cloud Lifter, which is Cloud Lifter gives a little bit gain, a lot of gain before it hits your preamps, and I switched out the Cloud Lifter for I think it's a Soez. It's a Russian preamp basically that gives it a lot of boost, and it's really clean. It's a lot better than the Cloud Lifter. Same price as the Cloud Lifter, but I notice a big difference. So a lot of people in production, or especially on YouTube, podcasts, they use a SM7B with a Cloud Lifter, which I have that. And it's pretty good. It's not bad, but it's too boomy. And the Cloud Lifter isn't as good as this other one. It's not my favorite setup at the end of the day. I really enjoy the Heil with this other preamp. I feel like when I listen to it back and my wife listens to it, anybody that listens to it, like, yeah, that's how you sound. So if you met me in real life, I would sound exactly like that. And that's the thing about, I always think of YouTube or any kind of public video. You want to be as genuine as possible, so you don't want to distort your voice or make it sound a certain way. You want to make it sound exactly how you speak. And that way, if I ever did meet you in real life, it would be like, oh yeah, hey, how are you doing, Titus? And when I speak, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, how much post-processing are you doing? And that's the PR40 has the most authentic and also the clarity of the sound. I think it gives it just that little bit more than the SM7B. Let's see here. What are we breaking today? We're going to be doing the TitusPi, but we're going to be slimming it down. We're going to go minimal install with it. The TitusPi famously, I don't know about famously, but I want it to be famous. Let's just say that. Where I played Warzone on a Pi. That was that video. It's been a while since I did that video. I probably should have linked that video up in chat, but yeah, if you look up TitusPi, it should pull up. Do you ever play on your MC server? Yeah, I usually play about every weekend with my daughter. We'll jump on there and we'll play a little bit. But I usually try and limit everything down. There's not like a whole bunch of ops. We do grief prevention and a bunch of other stuff to just make it a more friendly server. But we have a really good base of people there. I think Evil J is always on there and some other folks. So it's fun. But I like Minecraft, actually. I've grown with it, and it's a nice little bonding experience with me and my daughter. Free PDF editor for Debian. Probably would choose Sumatra, I think, for that PDF editor. It's probably one of the better free ones that I found. I still don't like it that much. I always end up going back to Adobe in Windows, mainly because Adobe's the one that created the PDF standard, and they are constantly changing stuff, so kind of needed. Do you know of a way of having our OS desktop in our home server and make it to where you use in all computers at home or out of a VPN as soon as you turn on your PC? I mean, I'm rereading that. That was a little wordy. I think what you're asking is you always want the same desktop and you want it to be always universal. You could probably do like an NVIDIA stream. Game streaming actually is really, really good, and it's clean, and you could probably pipe that to any desktop, any laptop, as long as you had enough bandwidth. I would say you need at least Wi-Fi 6 for a good experience without much lag. But yes, I'm actually about to do exactly that. I'm going to have one Windows PC, just because, again, Windows 11 has driven me crazy. But I'm going to basically make that an LTSC Windows instance, and then put all my games in Windows apps that I constantly use on that, and then move it over. So SM7B is good for recording sounds. Yeah, I think Michael Jackson was the one that was like his mic, and it's a fantastic. SM7B is great for musicians. It's just for voiceover, it just adds a little bit of muddiness almost to it. The mids aren't as crisp and clear as I like. Yeah. Hi-All mics. Yeah, Hi-All mics take a little bit on the configuration side. I would say the high end's just a little bit too high. And I adjust that. Usually some semblances are a little more of a problem with the Hi-All mics. But I think Epos Vox hated the PR40, and he has such a boomy voice, which was sad because I thought, honestly, he could sound a lot better on a PR40 than that electro voice he's using. I think it makes him sound like crap, but, you know, teach his own. There's a lot of opinion when it comes to actually mic sound. Yeah. Ambox has really crappy support. I always tell people, if you're really into Android development, you should really check out the Chrome OS. Chrome OS isn't as bad as everyone says it is. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I could do a lot more stuff on Chrome OS than a lot of people thought. Like, a lot of people are like, it's just a web browser with Android apps. I'm like, well, there's actually a lot of stuff, and the containers that Chrome OS uses is some of the best system infrastructure-wise that I've seen. So you could actually emulate quite a bit on it, and it's only getting better. So, pretty awesome. I really want that wallpaper you have on Arch. Move beach and impress my wife. All right, man. Well, I tell you what, Roberto. What we'll do is, let's see if we can't do something today with the moving beach. Once we finish TitusPi, maybe towards the end of the stream, I'll do it. And if you can't stick around that much, I always leave it up on the channel. I just unlist these videos after they're done. So you can always check it out just by clicking on my name and going to the main channel page. But I'll see what I can do for you, man. Figure out a way. We might be able to just do it in Wine. I haven't actually tried. Yeah, Michael's in chat. How's it going, Michael? But yeah, SM7B's for recorded amp boxes and kick drums. It's just, a lot of people have used it for podcasts. You got your Joe Rogans of the world, and Joe Rogan has basically popularized the SM7B to where everyone's like, that's what I need, because that's why I bought it. I was like, well, if it's good for Joe Rogan, it's good for me. Look at him. He's got millions of viewers on this because he's using that. And then I listened to it, and I was like, well, it is better, and it does have a... I will say the 7B, one good instance of it that I found was background rejection. So if I had a bunch of ambient sound around me, and like I used to have like this window AC unit and all this other crap, the 7B was fantastic for that environment because it killed so much background noise. So if you are in a noisy environment, the 7B is fantastic for that too. Have you observed Windows 11 causing wake-up issues sometimes getting awakened from sleep? I have. There is some issues with that. I was on the dev version. The last version of dev, the dev version of Windows 11, I couldn't even shut down my PC. It would... So there was some shenanigans going on with that version. I don't think that hit the testing branch, though. So if you're in the beta branch of Windows 11, it shouldn't have gone live. That one was really, really bad, though. However, I think I've since updated, and... Oh, no, I had some other stuff happen, and it just pissed me off so much. I've been in Linux on my main box for a while. I think I was just like, I'm just going to wait a month or two. Too many bugs. But I will revisit it, to say the least. There's no way to get around it. Is hardened tools included? It is not. I do like hardened tools, though. I really enjoy it. Now, hardened tools, the debloat script does use O&O shutup 10 at recommended settings. It actually does a bits transfer towards the start of it, downloads O&O shutup 10, and then runs the recommended settings. And that does work in Windows 11 as well. Hey, what's up, Peter? How's it going? Yeah, my to-do list is ridiculous. I usually have about 1 billion things going on, and I just kind of do whatever I can. And then, like, sometimes people get mad at me because I don't respond, but, you know, usually I just try and shut things down towards the end of the day and then just do my thing. So I don't respond a lot to, like, DMs and stuff like that. So if I don't ever get you guys, I'm sorry. Not on purpose. Any tips to learn Bash and PowerShell? Set up test environments and go for it. Try and think of something you want to happen and automate it, and then figure out how to do it. I usually just grab examples, and probably the thing I would say is there's always someone smarter than you. No matter who you are, there's always someone smarter than you out there, and they've probably already done what you're trying to do. So grab their scripts, figure out what they've done, and then start dissecting it and taking it bit by bit and figuring out what each portion of their scripts do. That's usually how I learn from that type of automation, but automation is probably the best thing ever. Whether you're in Linux or Windows, using PowerShell and Bash is amazing and so great. I absolutely love it. Well, so yeah, I really appreciate ePostVox and Linus trying to tackle Linux. I think there's the old adage, and I want to just kind of speak to the Linux people now. There's the old adage, all press is good press. You know, good or bad, just being there as an option is good. So overall, I do think it's good. Are they wrong in a lot of areas? I wouldn't say wrong. I would just say naive to a lot of things because they just haven't used it very much. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm appreciative of them trying it. And I like that. I like that they tried it, and a lot of their gripes that they have is what a new user would have as a gripe. Because a lot of times, like I was watching, I think it was ePostVox's video, and he was talking about how he installed GRU to Linux, and then he just started adding a ton of packages from like the AUR, and I'm just like, no, why? Why would you do that? It's so gonna break. And then sure enough, like the next sentence is, when then it broke, and he cut over, and I'm like, oh, jeez. That's depressing, but yeah, I see why you do it, and I see what would happen afterwards. So yes, I was screaming at my screen during that, but I want people to appreciate that experience. The thing to learn here is this is what like a normal Windows user would do in Linux. So I have to remind myself that. And it's important to remind yourself of that when you watch the stuff. And not think of it from a Linux vet point of view, but more from a Windows point of view, because a lot of the gripes they had, I know I ran down that rabbit hole, and I'm guilty of that when I first stepped into desktop Linux. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. And also, I think we could approach it differently. I think if we set up, let's say I had Linus or Epos, Vox, and I said, hey, what... I would teach them a completely different way. I would first say, don't try to use this how you use Windows. It is not Windows. It is not Mac. It is meant to be server first as an operating system, and there's some things you need to do, and then I would set up some rules for them. And frankly, what I'm trying to do with like the Debian project that we were doing on Tuesday, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later today, is force them to use their computer differently than they've ever used it before in their life. And that's the big thing. You can't just do what you're doing on Windows, take it to a Linux desktop. It just isn't going to work. You're going to try and install like Photoshop, or you're going to try and do just stupid stuff that is going to break. You're going to have a miserable experience, and it's not going to be good. So I would set it up and kind of make a different environment and be like, you've always used your computer this way, but instead, we're going to do it this way. Now, I know you don't want to use the terminal, but I'm going to force you to use it. And then I would say, here's what you'll do. And then they'd start to use it, and then they'd be like, this is freaking awesome. This is amazing. I can't believe I was using a computer like that. God, I was such a noob. And they would even criticize their past selves, because that's exactly what I did. And so, yeah, that's important to know. So I appreciate the exposure from Epos and Linus, and I totally understand why they are like that. Yes, some of it is a little bit misinformation, but that's what happens with a new user. It's less about the actual information that they're giving and more about the experience that they're having that I care about. And I really appreciate the effort and also the visibility of Linux. So shout out to them. I love it. What's this? Hijack this? Oh my god, I hadn't used hijack this in forever. Usually I just do like a regedit, go into like local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows current version, and then hit up the run key. And then I just look through that, and then I'll hit up like task scheduler. I just do it all manual. And I'm usually faster than downloading some third-party program. So I usually just check all the usual suspects, then like start run, shell : common startup, shell : startup, and then just look through all that myself and hit it, and then I clean it up, then using something like hijack this to remove any bloat or stuff that's starting up, because no program's really going to do it right, in my opinion. I think you should just learn how all the common places to set up Windows. And to anybody that's like, Windows 11's really secure, or Windows is secure, man, if I got on your system, I could do some shenanigans that would make your head spin. Without administrative privileges, mind you. So great. Yeah, so that's not really a subsystem. That's like, Windows is like this super jank Amazon store that kind of ties in with Android. That was a gimmick. It's not really Android. It's not a subsystem for Android. I think BlueStacks probably has a better experience. Ugh, and that's saying something. That's a pretty low bar. But so far, not impressed with Windows subsystem for Android. Yeah, I think they're finally releasing it in my dev build, though. I'll check it out some more. I'll probably do a video on it. So, gosh, normalized audio. I love it. I got no comment on that. No, well, I mean, so I don't think it's that. I think you're not giving Linus enough credit here. And also, it's important to remember Linus is a media group first, technician second. So it's not that he doesn't want it to work. He's just not like super technical. And you got to remember he's a gamer / YouTuber, and that's kind of where he is. But it appeals to such a broad audience. A lot of the stuff I talk about is just so niche that you got to be in the IT profession to even understand. And a lot of the stuff that happens in Linux, a normie or just someone that's brand new to it just wouldn't understand. So he just doesn't understand some stuff, man. It's not that he's purposely trying to go out and do stuff. And honestly, I think he's scared to release a lot of those videos. A lot of the videos from Linux just because of the community. Because he knows he's going to see a ton of backlash. So be kind to Linus, I think. But yeah, he might be trolling you a little bit. I'm sure that's going to happen. I've trolled the Linux community, though, so I got no room to talk. There's been some times where I'm just like, you know. You're never getting on my system. Run my debloat tool. Maybe I'm already there. Yeah, man. I joke, but it's oh man, I've had all kinds of stuff. So I gave away around that tool, and I've open sourced that tool since it's ever been created. But I've had people like threaten to sue me. Oh my god, what was it this week? I had a guy threaten to sue me. He's like, I'm gonna sue you unless you help me fix the computer. You got me banned from Valorant. I'm like, whatever, dude. Oh, that's funny. So yes, I do get threatened a lot. Usually on a weekly, sometimes daily basis about the old debloat tool and that type of thing. But I usually don't do any kind of support or anything like that just because there's some crazies out there. Crazies. I do wish yeah, he does have some good hair. But then again, he's in his 30s, you know? Give it 10 years, man. I got some, what is that? Right there, got a receding hairline. But then again, you know, I'm a bit older. Got about 10 years on him. How to be a YouTuber as an introvert. I'm pretty much a living example of that. I don't think I've ever gone to a public event and I've only been recognized maybe twice in public. So I am the living embodiment of an introvert on YouTube. I've never gone to like a YouTube event or anything like that. Ubuntu Devil, you say. So I actually removed the Ubuntu the Devil's video. It hit like 1 million views and it was actually doing really well, but I watched it back and I was like, man, I don't want the first thing that people see of me being me saying Ubuntu's the devil. Because they won't get the context and they won't understand a lot of the stuff I was talking about in that video. So I actually ended up putting that as a members only video. So the only people that can watch that video nowadays are my YouTube members. So, yeah. Hey, you know, YouTube's not that tough on introverts. YouTube's more about just persistence. Like, a good example is I had to do 100 videos before I even got 100 subscribers. So usually the first, like, people are like, YouTube doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, how many videos you got? And they're like, 10. And I'm like, yeah, do 90 more. I mean, if you want to do YouTube, you don't have to do YouTube. And YouTube's not for everybody. Dakota. Oh, man. No comment. Yeah. Oh, man. Is virtualization-based security, or is it all shenanigans? It's not all shenanigans and a gimmick. There is some benefits to it. It's and there isn't much drawback. A lot of people made it out to be, when it came to the VBS or virtualization-based security, made it be like you're losing a ton of performance because of it. And some of that was in part because there was that huge AMD bug, because Microsoft and Intel were like buddy over here and just kind of left AMD out in the cold for the Windows 11 launch. But that wasn't VBS that caused a lot of those. It was actually how they handled a lot of like the L3 cache. But it's not a gimmick. I think it will add a little bit of security to Windows. It's almost like another shim between the kernel and the OS and some of the user stuff. So it's a good thing. At the end of the day, I'm going to say it's a good thing. From what I've seen so far. I'm not ready to go on video and say that, though. I'll do it in a live stream. Members only. No, chicken. If you click the little join button, you get like special emotes. You get like a little icon for any comments and other stuff you get here. And then also there's a whole thing. So if you click on my name on my channel page, there's a whole members section. So any like past opinion pieces or things that I've privated, I've actually just moved to members. Best offline PDF reader for Linux. I really like XPDF because it's so lightweight. But I'd already talked about Sumatra and some other stuff, which is pretty cool. Wait. I would like to make menus, but I would have to put pants on? You're doing it wrong, Darren. You don't need pants. Look. I could be completely naked underneath this. You don't know. You don't need pants for YouTube. You're good, man. Do you use Ubuntu Touch? No, I've used it, but no, not as a daily driver. Just not my cup of tea yet. I do like it though. I love the approach of it. But it's getting better every month. It's going to take a couple years, I think, for it to really become good. I don't think hardened tools is essential. I think it's a good idea. All hardened tools does. So let's say you're going to attack me and try to hack me. Usually you have all these different entry points. The first entry point's at your gateway, right? The network level. That network level is the most important level. So your firewall, everything, that's where everything sits. And the important thing is, don't open up a whole bunch of ports. The second important thing is, disable universal PNP, because that opens up and closes ports automatically and can be abused, as it's been shown in tons and tons of white papers for that type of thing. So that's the first level, but then you get to the OS level. OS level's secondary. If they're already through the firewall, you're in trouble. But let's say they get through the firewall. This is where hardened tools and Linux, Windows, all this comes into play. They're in your network, which, again, you're in trouble regardless at this point. So hardened tools, what it does, by default, Windows has a bunch of vulnerabilities. VBS scripts, a whole bunch of other things that can be run. Like if I was going to hack into a whole bunch of systems, typically I would do it in a multifaceted approach. I would attack with VBS scripts. That would be a really good entry point because by default they're not turned off. Another really good entry points, I've already covered how easy the startup is to infiltrate. I would probably do it through Task Scheduler because it can be done as a regular user, and you can usually bypass UAC and a lot of the admin blocks that are in place through Task Scheduler. And then what happens is Hardened Tools basically takes all these spots where I could attack you and closes them down. It says, no, you can't run VBS scripts. No, you can't launch PowerShell. That right there, those two things are huge. Those are huge vulnerabilities in systems, because if you let me in either one, I got you. I can do whatever I want, no matter if I know your password, whatever. If you let me in, run a VBS script, or you let me in your PowerShell, game over, man. So Hardened Tools are great for shutting down a lot of those attack vectors. So once they're shut down, I can't use them, and then I have to focus on other vulnerabilities. But I always tell people security is a journey, not a destination. So anytime you're thinking of securing something, you need to remember you're never secure. Probably the dumbest thing anybody could ever say is, I'm 100% secure, I can't get hacked. I think anyone can get hacked. It's just a matter of the effort involved. And most hacking done, I would say 99% of hacking that is done through opportunity, not pure skill and talent. Because most hackers are just looking for an easy payday, and typically they wouldn't want to bother with a more secured system than something just left wide open, like an unpatched version of Windows. Man, it'd take you 5 minutes on that. Completely secure system with a really good firewall and everything hardened up, man, you're going to be pounding around for hours and hours, where over here it would take a couple minutes. So just remember that. Always think of security as a journey, not a destination. There's never anything you're going to do that's going to be like, I'm secure now. No, doesn't exist. I never think I'm secure. I'm always like, yeah, they could probably get in there, or they could get in there. If I close that down, I know I'm going to be a little more secure, but then it's going to, there's a give and take. There's almost like a sliding scale with security. There's the convenience, and then there's the security. More security, less convenience. More convenience, less security. So there's this balancing act that happens, and that's just how technology works, how computers work, and how you should think of security. Not as, I've done this, I'm secure. No. It's, I've done this, I'm a bit more secure. And then once you start really diving in, you're really locking things down, then the convenience stuff starts really, really getting hit. And then pretty soon, you got two-factor on everything, and it takes you 5 minutes to log into your computer. It's a thing, you know? And it depends on how high you want to go. Probably the highest security I've ever seen was at a nuclear plant. I was instructing someone how to set up a PBX box, and everything that I said had to be triple and quadruple checked. And then sometimes they were just like, yeah, we can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. So we got to do it a different way. And I'm like, okay. So it depends on what type of security you got and how much convenience you have. That's an extreme example of some stuff that just was so secure that you couldn't really do many things because it just wasn't allowed in that environment. Building a new computer, can't decide between the 5950X or the dual-core Xeon 18-core. I don't know, man. I would go 5950X or wait. I'm waiting for the next gen. I really think, because Intel's kind of like cheated their way ahead of in the residential space. Michael, you're probably more thinking of business section here because AMD's still leading in a lot of just straight up raw processing. But Intel's kind of cheated in Windows 11. And they've kind of just started releasing like DDR5 with their efficiency cores and performance cores type deal. I can't wait for AMD's response. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but as a Team Red fanboy, man, I bet you this next gen, AMD's just going to come in and be like, kapow, just lay it down on Intel. I hate Intel, so it's like, please. But I think, honestly, the manufacturing of AMD is a lot better. They're able to make, I think they're going to be able to respond in short order and do a lot better than, and I think we're going to see another big jump on this next series. So if you can wait, great. If not, I'd probably go 5950X. The Xeons can be very performant, especially from a single core performance, but they run extremely hot, they're loud, and they suck energy like no tomorrow. So, but if you're looking for absolute top tier single core performance, hey man, those Xeon 18s are beasts for that. But I like quiet. I don't like a ton of electricity, and I'm kind of cheap. So the 5950X would be my game. So you let me know, Michael, which one you end up going with. Yeah, this is a tough one to answer. Does it work good with printers? Some printers, it works great. HP printers are probably the best. I love the HP printers on Linux. Well, I'm trying to think of the worst printer I've done. Brother printers. Ooh, I've had some issues with Brother printers on Linux. But most things do work. I've almost always been able to print on almost any printer. But, this is a big but, if you're doing like an MFP or a multifunction printer, you're going to probably want to do something different here, man. Yeah, you're probably going to want to stick to like Windows or Mac on that regard. If there's not a really good Linux driver, check out which printer you're using before look before you leap on that one, because there are some printers, specifically like Epson and Canon MFPs, I've run into some shenanigans with, where I've lost like the ability to scan, or I lost the ability to do faxing. Which, who really faxes anymore? There's websites that can do the fax as long as you got a scan coming in. Yeah, so, yeah, Intel's kind of like, right now, they're like, I think like 7 to 10% higher than like a 5900 or a 5950. But it runs like twice as much as the envelope's like twice as much. Like the TDP, I want to say, was like 250 watts, where Ryzen will be sucking down like a 125. So they've like just cranked this up, so it's super hot, very energy inefficient. And if you're thinking, who cares about the energy? Because I know there's people out there that are like, I don't care. But I want you to think of this: a system that's running not very performant. Let's say you're doing a lot of processing throughout an entire day. You're looking at double the energy bill there, or not quite double, because you're not going to be doing it 24 hours a day, but it adds up, man. It ends up costing you more money, more than you'd think. The average system running is like $30 a month at like 10 cents a kilowatt. So, important to know. Dude, just run my debloat tool. It works on Windows 11. I even added stuff to it. All right, what do we got? Xeon costs thousands per chip. Yeah. It cracks me up when people grab it and then they don't do like the ECC memory. It's kind of funny. It's like using TreeNAS without ECC memory. Not a good idea. I mean, yes, you can, but not advised because of the dedupe and some other stuff. All right, well, let's get on the desktop. We've been chatting for almost an hour. Holy crap! Let me mark this. I need to do stream marking so people know after when we started actually getting on the desktop to do what we're doing today. Look at me, all organized, I think. Well, I don't know how to mark. I'm gonna just write it down. I'll do it after. I'll do it on my notes here. Oh, that is bright. That is a very bright screen. Still got to work on some of this formatting here. Oh. Stream marker. All right, I'll work on stream marking for the next live stream on Tuesday. We'll start at 56 minutes in. TitusPi. All right, guys, let's get into booting this thing up. Let's see what old TitusPi is up to on a Raspberry Pi 3. I originally designed this for the Raspberry Pi 4. You know, we get there. I probably could actually get that 4 repurposed. I don't think my phone system needs a 4, because the 4 has like 8 gigs of memory compared to the 1, the Raspberry Pi 3. Alrighty. Let's clear that. And here we go. To the desktop. Come on, there we go. All right. Raspberry Pi, TitusPi boot up time. Let's do it. We're gonna go to 1 and 1. And this is what we have. Beautimus. Hey man, I'm getting better with my organization. A vast improvement to where I was. It's the baby steps in life. All right, let's see here. Now this is awesome window manager that we were using. Works pretty good. I like it. Pretty clean setup. What did I have? I think it was Chromium for the browser. If we look here, let's launch Chromium. And I think this is a little slow on the Raspberry Pi 3 just because Chromium doesn't do well when it only has like 100 megs of memory to use. So we'll see what happens. Does it even load Chromium? It's probably better. Chrome's like, I don't have enough memory. But we do need to clean up some stuff. I think we can reduce this footprint by at least 100 megs or so. All right, there's old Chrome. It's coming up. It does launch. But let's do a Neo fetch real fast. We'll come launch into our terminal. I think this is still using Terminator. We're gonna kick Terminator to the curb. Use some kitty action because I know Terminator is much more resource intensive than kitty for sure. And then we'll see what we got. No, it's already. I actually designed this in the Raspberry Pi 4. What I'm doing is just kind of using a 3 to see how bad the performance would be on a Raspberry Pi 3. So let me flip back to here. Raspberry Pi 3 performance is not great. I would say don't use a Raspberry Pi 3 for TitusPi. This is a little brutal. Yeah. A lot of people are talking about like my BSPWM that I've been working on the Debian spin, and that has that's been good. I really enjoy BSPWM because of how it's like focused around Bash script. The Bash scripting in it is so good. I absolutely love that I'm able to automate anything I want to do on the system through Bash, which is fantastic. All right, let's do a Neo fetch. What are we working with here? So this is a Pi 3 Rev 1.2. Let's see. It's using 5.10. Oh, I must have upgraded this recently, actually. Let's do a sudo apt update. Let's see where we're at on packages. Okay. It does look like we have a mirror change. We're going to update the repository, which is fine. We may even have a dist upgrade here, because this is Buster it's on. And I think Bullseye is now the latest release. But then again, I don't know about Raspbian. We're going to take a peek. Uh-oh. What's happening here? Oh. That's the screensaver. All right, we have, looks like hand melted. This, we got to fix a couple repositories here. Does look like some of them have gone bye-bye. So let's go into apt. Let's take a peek. Usually I'm pretty good about throwing everything to sources.d. Oh my god. I've been in Windows too much lately. I just did dir. Ah. All right, hand melted is no longer there anymore. So let's just do a sudo remove hand melted, or head melted. All right, now let's do a sudo apt update. Do you overclock your PCs? Never. I think overclocking is terrible unless you are replacing your PCs like every year or something. Have to upgrade, yes. So we're gonna just upgrade all our packages real fast. So the reason for that, let me disable X screensaver too, by the way. I mean, I don't know. Let it go. But overclocking PCs removes it reduces the life of your PC any which way you cut it. Even with like really good like custom loops and keeping those thermals in check, I think just overclocking your PC inherently reduces its lifespan. So why would you do that to get just a little bit more performance? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's just wasteful. I like to keep my PCs for like 10 years. No joke. The last PC I retired was like 15 years old. So I use my PCs up until they're not functional anymore, or I'll resell them. So I have done that. I think when the chip shortage happened, I sold almost all my PCs, any extra PCs I had, on like OfferUp or something like that, and then just that worked out good. They got good deals on new PCs, and I would sell them all as like a bundle. And a lot of times I'd well underdo it to where they were getting a hell of a deal. So yeah, overclocking is bad. I hate water cooling too. I think water cooling for most people is completely pointless unless you're like a hobbyist and that you love hobbyist or artist. I would say is okay for water cooling. If you really enjoy how it looks, or you really enjoy that process, and you don't mind draining the loop every couple years to redo it, hats off to it. Go for it. But for your average person, water cooling's terrible. Even the closed loops that you get from the store, most of them are crap anyways, and you don't get nearly the benefits. Like, people that buy closed loops and like, it's water cooled, I'm gonna get great thermals. I'm like, I mean, maybe on like the 360 millimeters you'll get like some better thermals, but haven't seen like a closed loop 120 mil radiator. I was like, why does this exist? Like, a heat sink and a fan would be better. The 240 mils a little bit better, but at that time I'm like, I don't know. I don't like water cooling. I think it's just crap. It's just marketing gone awry. Old man Titus, get off my lawn with you youngins and your water cooling and your overclocking, hot rodding. No, I mean just it's just pointless in my opinion. Unless you're into that thing. If you're into it and you get enjoyment out of it, by all means. But if you're not into computers and you're trying to do any of those, I'm just like, you're just gonna have a bad time. What do you think of Alder Lake? Worth upgrading for? I'm not an Intel guy, so I already have a bias to AMD. It's important to note. It is going to be more performant as long as you're on Windows 11, you're using DDR5 memory, and you have the Alder Lake. If you meet all three of those criteria, you're going to get 5 to 10% uplift. Are you going to be using Windows 11 for it? Are you going to spend crazy amounts of money to get DDR5? Okay? Then you can get Alder Lake. All three of those things have to line up to make it worth it. Otherwise, just buy a Ryzen 5000 series. If you're not, you're just wasting time. So, it's important to know that. Do I recommend it? And this is what I say. Wait. We're in the middle of historic shortages in the chip sector. We have just massive problems all around to where everything's more expensive right now. Wait till those supply chains get fixed. Not only that, you're going to be rewarded handsomely for waiting because the Alder Lakes are going to be just ridiculously expensive. Probably thousands of dollars to build a complete system, maybe more. And you're going to get maybe 5 or 10% more for doing such a thing past the Ryzen 5000 series. And on top of all of that, you'll have AMD's response soon. Soon, I say like 6 months to a year, probably. We're going to get a really good response from AMD. By that time, you get that response. Now you have probably a 20 or 30% uplift in performance compared to the 5000 series. You're on AMD, you have all this new technology, and hopefully by then the supply chain issues get fixed. So I would say you should only be buying a computer right now if you desperately need it. But if your computer's doing everything you want to do, you're wasting a ton of money to get just a little bit more performance. So I'd wait. I'd wait. Personally. Yeah, and also the Alder Lake series does run very, very hot, and it uses a lot more energy, man. It's not, like I said, Intel basically cheated their way to get 5 or 10% more performance just so they could say that in the marketing materials. But I wonder how many people are going to buy it, and they're not going to meet all three of those criteria. They're not going to be using Windows 11, or they're going to be using DDR4 memory, and they're like, I'm going to get as much performance. Nope. You're gonna lose out. I almost guarantee you with DDR4, Intel is not going to look as good. So a lot of people are going to be disappointed, I think. I would wait. Again, it's just one of those things. The supply chain's going to get worse before it gets better, probably. I would say probably next year is the soonest we should be looking for getting something back to normalcy when it comes to the supply chain. But it's not going to happen before the holidays, that's for sure. What if you run Alder Lake on Linux? I'm curious. This is all speculation because I don't have Alder Lake here to run on Linux for this test. I will say it is probably going to run worse than the AMD 5000 series, because you got to remember Intel worked really hard with Microsoft to make it optimized so it would perform and take advantage of all those efficiency cores properly and have a custom scheduler for tasks. I don't think Linux is going to do that, man. I think Linux is going to be like, no, we're not going to just change our entire scheduler for you, Intel. But I could be wrong. Maybe there's a way it's able to upgrade that, but I need to look into it. I don't know. But I do imagine they will take advantage of it sometime in the future with how those Intels are structured. I just don't know how much the Linux team's going to dedicate to this new chip design. Do we need to change water and liquid cooling? Yeah. If you do an open loop, one, you're going to have evaporation, so you're going to have to at least add water, right? And then also, it's going to get gunked up. There's going to be particles and crap that gets in your loop. You're going to have to drain that loop. I mean, most people recommend every year, but you can probably get away with draining it every couple years. And then you drain your loop, you refill the loop, and then I mean, just talking about it's like, why bother? So you can overclock your system, get a little bit more performance. I mean, I don't really know how much benefit you're getting from all that. Chris, have you tried Fedora as a daily driver? Yes. Actually, when my first portion of the Linux challenge I did, I used Fedora as my daily driver. Funny enough. Fedora works. The package selection's not as great, so I found myself building and compiling a little bit more than I would on an Arch or a Debian system. But it worked. Fedora is a good system. I do like its structure to where it has a little bit more of a rolling release on the kernel side of things, and its packages are a bit better curated than Arch's counterpart, where Arch's packages aren't curated as much. The thing I like the most about Fedora is its package manager, DNF, or what is that? Denitrified Yum, or whatever it's called. DNF is really good. It has more of a staged approach for a lot of the updates, so it's a little bit more efficient than Debian and Arch when it comes to upgrading packages. But again, package selection's a little bit less. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Miguel says, the only advantage you get from water cooling is you keep dust away from your PC parts. I think it could be said you probably should open up your systems every couple years and blow them out to get rid of all that dust sitting in there. But I've had PCs go 5, 6, 7 years without that happening, and they run, just fine. It just depends on the cooler. The coolers are really important. What are your opinions on FreeBSD? Again, BSD's servers. Don't be using BSD as a desktop is kind of where I'm at. You're going to just be missing your packages is the big thing. Unless you're not doing much. If you're just doing like web browsing and stuff, I like BSD. I probably like BSD better than Linux in that regard. It's a little bit more open, and it's a little bit less heavy than Linux counterpart. If you can get away with BSD and you're just looking to do web browsing or something that's pretty minor, usage of a computer, I think BSD could be a desktop. It's just most people really want a little bit more of the full experience and Linux gives you that. What do you think of terminal browsers? They're good, man. Like E-links and that type of thing. I like E-links. It's really kind of cool. It kind of brings me back to how the internet was founded, like BBS and all that stuff. So I don't mind terminal browsers every once in a while. Like especially if I'm like haven't put in like a GUI yet on a system and I'm like, oh man, I just need that one thing from that one article, or I need to grab this off GitHub. Pulling up in E-links is freaking awesome, man. Love it. Pi overclocking. I need to probably do some Pi overclocking. I just saw your message up there, Luke. This one is running pretty... This is a pretty old Pi, though. This Pi is... 7 years old? 6 years old? Something like that. I got this right when the Pi 3 launched. So I want to say it'd be early 2000 something. Early 2010s. How well, poorly would Windows 11 perform on an i3 5005U laptop? Is it worth upgrading to... No. If you have to ask the question, stay on Windows 10. No doubt in my mind about that. You don't get much for upgrading to Windows 11. You get a new look and feel, which I do like, by the way. It's just, for most people, it's not worth it. Maybe in 6 months when they've worked out a little bit more of the bugs. But if you're having to question, hey, should I upgrade this older computer? Probably not. Actually, that's not that old, but still. Chances are is no. It's just not worth it right now. May in the future, though. I don't think a Raspberry Pi Zero, David, will have enough juice to do this. Diet Pi I have tried. I just didn't like the look of Diet Pi that much. It's better than Raspbian, though, I'll say that much. Yeah. Peter's like, hey, Chris has a nice house. I'm like, yeah, I love my house. It's not massive, but it has pretty much everything that you could want. Bowling alley, movie theater, all that. No, I'm kidding. No, my house is a moderately sized 2,000 square foot house. To where, you know, with our couple kids, I do, you know, I think you always want more. I would love to have like another bedroom so I don't have to be in the garage, but oh well, you know, I just kind of converted my garage into a studio, and then, you know, I have the gym over in the back, all that stuff in the actual garage as well. I use the hell out of my garage because I got my workbench on the other side of the wall there too. Do you know how to set the delay and repeat rate of a keyboard in Xorg? Xset R rate. Oh. I wonder why you'd change that, Peter. Essential step for RTS gamers. Wow. I did not know. I've done a lot of Xset stuff, but I've never used R rate to set the repeat rate of the keyboard. That's kind of neat, though, that you can customize that. Is this, nah, it's on kernel headers. I bet that'll take a little bit. I bet this will take probably a good 5-10 minutes. Oh, Kim, more kids to fill out the house. The house is already full with 2 kids. I'm not having any more kids. Made sure of that. So, we're good. We're good on the kids. I have an 18-year-old and a 10-year-old. No more. No more than that for me. There's some crazy people out there, like right as they're about to get out of the woods, you know, they're like, you know what? Let's just have another baby. I'm like, yeah, you're a special kind of crazy. Oh man. Let that go for probably another 5 minutes or so. Yeah, we have 2 cats and a dog. Yeah, I've actually been on Linus, like been following his Linux journey. So a lot of times I'll chime in on some of the comments. Like I'll watch it, I'm like, that's too good. I gotta say something. Like I said, I love the fact they tried Linux, man. I don't think Epos or Linus will will keep to the Linux as a full-time deal, but that's okay. I know it's not for everybody. I love it when people try it. Yeah, US is interesting. It's kind of funny. Like, I remember when I traveled abroad, it was, everyone has, like, their preconceived notions, but it just depends on where you're at in America. Like, I've moved around America a lot, and, it's interesting to see the different cultures that exist in America. I was actually born in, like, small-town America, and then, grew up more in a city environment, out in Kansas City, and then ended up moving to Texas about 20 years ago. And then Texas has been good for a business perspective. I think a lot of people don't understand that a lot of like Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's so big and there's so many good business opportunities here that I was very fortunate in a lot of my career because of how good the job market is here and has been. Still, like, I mean, just finding somebody for my replacement up at my day job was very difficult. Trying to hire another IT person because there's just so much demand in the market, which is great from an employee if you're looking for a job perspective. So I'm very happy with that. But yeah, it's neat seeing all the different parts, but I really haven't messed with a lot of like the East and West Coast. I haven't really done much like in New York or Los Angeles. Flown through there a couple times, but never really spent any time with them. Spent some time out in like PA and Pennsylvania. That was kind of interesting. Did Linus make a mistake choosing Manjaro? Here, let's go back to chat. This is going to take a minute. This is going to take a minute to get done for sure. Let's see. Let's just answer some questions while this updates. It's got some time. Yes, Linus made a mistake choosing Manjaro. So mainly because I know they're gonna, like, Epos chose Garuda. To me, Garuda and Manjaro is Arch Linux. A new user really shouldn't choose Arch Linux. Just because they're gonna install everything under the sun in the AUR and they're gonna break their system. So that's why you'd never choose an Arch-based system as a new user. So both Epos Vox and Linus Tech Tips made a mistake by choosing an Arch-based system. And I can't really blame them. That's the thing here, guys. Like, Google top Linux distributions. It's just so terrible. There's so much misinformation. I mean, how do you know? Unless you know. That's the thing. So yes, both Epos for choosing Garuda Linux and Linus, they both screwed up bad by choosing an Arch-based system. I understand why they did it though, because they wanted a whole bunch of packages and they didn't know how to get those packages on a more traditional distribution. Which is probably, if they wanted to do that, choosing like a Mint or choosing Pop! OS, whatever it might be. Both are Ubuntu based or based on Debian. Ubuntu's based on Debian. They're all Debian really at the end of the day. But choosing that would have been much kinder, and they wouldn't have had nearly the update problems that they had. Now they're still going to have a lot of other problems because there's going to be issues with them getting packages they want to use on those systems, where Arch fixes that package selection issue because it just, use your AUR, grab whatever package you want. Where you have to be much more deliberate in your Debian-based distributions like Ubuntu, Mint, Pop! OS. All those are important. So, it's one of those things. And like I said, I can't fault them for it, but at the same time, yeah, I knew they were going to have a bad time when I was like, ooh, you chose Garuda. Yeah, that's going to end bad. Or you choose Manjaro. Yeah, that's going to end bad. Oh, can you imagine? But that's okay. Part of the learning experience, I suppose. Linux Museum, thanks so much for the super chat there. Probably another thing I should mention. So I said don't install a whole bunch of stuff for the Arch AUR. But what I see a lot of Ubuntu and Ubuntu derivatives do, like Pop! OS and Mint, a lot of them, what they end up doing is they end up adding every PPA under the sun, and then their repository sources list ends up being like 20 or 30 repositories, and that's just as bad. Here, good example is TitusPi, which we're updating here in the background. Which, what are we at? Yeah, we're at 59%. I added 5 repositories, and that's on the high end for me. I'd say anything over 5, you've done it wrong. Adding every repository is not good. You're going to run into update problems when that repository is not kept up to date or whatever it might be, and you just need to make sure you're very deliberate in the repository selection. Don't be going PPA add rando PPAs. I think it was, who was it? Who was a big Ubuntu guy that was on YouTube? Alan Pope. He works for Canonical. And I remember him saying they tracked a whole bunch of PPAs and repositories, and there was like one of their most popular PPAs had no packages in it. They were literally just adding a repository with nothing in it. All of it was out-of-date crap that just was no longer valid. So you can go wrong in both environments. It's just most people don't know that. What did Luke end up choosing, too? Because Luke and Linus were both doing the challenge together. What did Luke end up on? Does anybody know? Yeah, that Pi is probably like, I'm dying. Haven't been used in like 4 years. What is he doing to me? Yeah, Alan ended up leaving Canonical, I heard. Mint. See, I bet you, I'm Nostradamus here, but I bet you Luke has a better experience than old Linus does. If not, that's already happened. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad Luke ended up on Mint. That's really what a new user should end up on. I feel much better that Luke is gonna have a better time. Oh, he wanted to, yeah. So there's always little things you're gonna find. So, gosh, I hope he sticks it out though. Yeah, Linus ended up on Manjaro. Luke ended up choosing Mint. Epos Vox ended up choosing Garuda Linux. So, well, I mean, let's pick some people here. Let's pick on chat. Linus strikes me. He's not a tech casual. I bet you Linus Tech Tips can build a computer better than me. Full stop. Linus Tech Tips has built more computers than me, probably. I'm sure he's had access to hardware and things that I just would never buy. So, I bet he can build a computer better than me. That's where Linus excels. That's where his channel grew from. He's really good at building computers. Where I build a computer maybe once every couple years. But you got to remember, you got the software side of things, and someone that deals with a lot of software and those types of things on over decades. The whole reason why I started my YouTube experience is I looked at tech YouTubers in specifics, and I was like, okay, hardware wise, I really like the selection of knowledge that we have on YouTube. You go to Jay's 2 Cents, Linus Tech Tips, what do you got? Paul's Hardware. You have Bitwit, which I don't even know. Does he do tech videos anymore? There's some other, like Gamers Nexus. There's a lot of really good hardware tech people on YouTube. Software, though, that's where the cringe comes in. Oh man, I could pick on some YouTubers here. We'll go ahead and pick on Linus because he's the big dog in the group. I remember him doing a video before he hired Anthony. Love Anthony, by the way. God. Oh, he's a great guy. Before he hired Anthony, he did a video over this scammy old Linux distro that got tossed on a thumb drive. And he was like, yeah, this is a pretty good deal for $100 for a thumb drive for... At the time when he made the video, I think that distro was like 4 years old, and it was like terribly customized. And I was like, no. So, but everybody, here's also a little secret too about YouTube. Everyone makes bad videos. It's inevitable. I have tons of bad videos that if you picked apart, they're just terrible, because a lot of times I was just in a rush. I was like, I got to get something out. And I toss out. Anymore, I'm just like, screw it. If I don't have a video to go that I can't stand up to, I just don't release a video. But that was a cringy video. But everybody does that. And then also like Jay's 2 Cents. Here's the things I use to clean up my system. And again, I can pick on those videos because I'm like, this could be better. And that's why a lot of times where I was like, okay, well, that's an opportunity. In the software market on YouTube, there's also some like people far smarter than me that have done an amazing job. There's this one guy that popped in my feed, and I think he programmed the pinball from original Windows XP, and it was really cool to see some of that on there too. So the software portion, I think, is the biggest underserved section. There's also like Enderman. He does a really good job on the software section in the tech realm too. So there's some really cool stuff. It's just software, there's a lot bigger variety, like this massive pool of things to do. With hardware, it's kind of like you're on rails. There's not much you can do. You can only talk about the new stuff. Where software, you have this massive buffet of selection. And that's why I think software is just a little bit better on YouTube. It's just also an underserved audience, too. Hey, Learn Linux TV. Yeah, I like him. Jay is great. He's great peoples. And I think once he gets a little bit more under, a little more experience, I think he's going to open up a little bit. But then again, that's just kind of like his personality. He's a bit dry, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's very informative, though. I like him. I think he's starting a new channel up with Lawrence Systems. So Tom over at Lawrence Systems and Jay are getting together, and I think they were doing like a podcast or something. I'll listen to it, though. Both those guys are very, very informative, and they have really good content. So love Jay from Learn Linux TV, and Tom as well from Lawrence Systems. How did DaVinci Resolve an NVIDIA GPU? Actually, that's actually probably the best GPU you can get. I think DaVinci Resolve, last time I messed with it on Linux, they really wanted a more stable OS. I think they wanted CentOS at the time. And CentOS had good NVIDIA drivers. So really, DaVinci Resolve from a workstation perspective wanted CentOS OS and then NVIDIA GPUs. I tried to install DaVinci Resolve on my AMD GPUs, and it was terrible every time. DaVinci Resolve in Linux is just, it's been a terrible experience all around. I wish DaVinci Resolve did a better job with their Linux compatibility, but at least they have some form of Linux compatibility, and I think it has gotten better in recent years. I just haven't bothered. Hadn't bothered with it. But NVIDIA is typically the GPU you want for DaVinci Resolve users out there. Is Jay's 2 cents 40? We might be. We might be the same age. How we doing on our updates? Hey, we're ready. Check it out, guys. Just got through chat. Yeah, old CentOS. Red Hat managed to kill CentOS, didn't they, guys? Man, too bad. I loved my CentOS, man. CentOS 7 was peak server usage, man. But at least we got Rocky Linux now. The original developer of CentOS is now using Rocky Linux. He's developing that. So if you love CentOS, Rocky Linux is where you want to be. He's come back. All right, so now let's do another update. We should have 0 packages on this update. Let's see what it's looking like. All right, everything's up to date. Let's do a dist update, or dist upgrade. Let's see if there's a bullseye version of this. No. All right. Let's go ahead and clean up some of these guys. Clear up about 10 megs. And then I think we're going to go ahead and install Kitty. Move that over. Make this a little bit less systems here. I think we're going to remove cups too. I think cups is probably causing some issues with this. Let's see, where are we at on our system usage? 42 minutes, 489. Let's look at what's running in the actual background here. Let's try and clean up system control a little bit. Let's go list unit files. Let's see what we have. Hey Mark, thanks so much for the super chat. Been a fan of this channel because it's informative. Hey man, I'd always try. I always try to be informative. I always try and think of, hey, what would people want to learn? Alright, let's see if there's anything in here first. There's auto login. Bluetooth service. Does the Raspberry Pis have Bluetooth? I can't remember. I think they do though, right? I'm not really seeing much here. I was actually probably running this pretty lean already, but a pull kit service. We could probably switch that out to LX pull kit, say maybe like 5 megs. Yeah, alright. I'm reading chat. I got it. I got my chat over here, and I blew it up so I don't miss any chat messages. Oh, look at all that System D. Someone's probably like, just run Init D. It'd be much cleaner and smaller. Probably. Not probably. It definitely would be. Now, this is all looking good. I mean, maybe NFS. I doubt very many people will be using NFS shares. We could probably disable that. Or change that to like a manual. Yeah, I'd much rather use System D than Init D2. That's so true. Mainly because everything's pretty much on System D these days. Can you install Arch Linux on a Raspberry Pi 4? Yeah, we could do that. I mean, this is pretty good. Other than having to fix that one repository, this update is pretty darn solid. How many packages were on here? Because this has, yeah, about 1,800, which is pretty decent for this. And you can see we only have like 500 and what? Yeah, I mean that's a pretty clean system, guys. That looks really good. Can you solve a Rubik's Cube? Yes, but like a caveman, not like speed cubing. I use, I think, the 5 algorithm approach for the Rubik's Cube, where you just do that. It's been a little bit. It's been a couple years. I think I have a Rubik's Cube inside I can grab. We can look at it. Do a Rubik's Cube tutorial. But yeah, I do it the noob way for installing or fixing a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, one thing I've noticed on Raspberry Pi 4 is the SCP and rsync is so much slower. Like 50 megabytes per second instead of the 100. Any ideas why? I think it's a bottleneck in the actual chip itself, Zoran. Yeah, this is on a live Pi. So this is using a Raspberry Pi 3. Raspberry Pi 3 Model B, Rev 1.2. So I think it's like 5 or 6 years old is what we said earlier. Maybe 7 years old, I don't know. It's it's old. The fact it even works here is pretty impressive. Yeah, now there's the Raspberry Pi 4. I thought the Raspberry Pi 4 only came in 4 gigs and 8 gigs. I could be wrong though. Yeah, this is on my site. TitusPi, but it's also, if you look at the top, the pinned comment is the GitHub page. So if you wanted to build this yourself, you can. as with any download on my website, I always have an open source GitHub repository to follow it. The kernel is old. This is Debian, or Raspbian based. So this is Raspbian 10. Let's see, does Raspbian have a Bullseye release is probably the next thing I want to know. Let's go to my main system for this, shall we? Shall we partake in the regular system? You guys can see where we're at on this. Let me go ahead. Where's my remote? Where you at, remote? There you are. Well, is that gonna do it? Remote? Maybe I selected the wrong one. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So this is the new. I've been working on this a little bit. Where are we at? So getting there. We're getting there. Oh wow, I got a lot of terminals up. So this is kind of what I'm working on. I still haven't done anything with Polybar yet. I wanted to just get like Synergy working, get all my browser settings in, all that going. This is the new build of Debian, the project we started on Tuesday, which is using BSPWM. TitusPi is actually using awesome window manager. Let's go Raspbian. Oops. Raspbian versions. Or I guess we should have just typed in Bullseye and see if that came out already. Yeah, I love the Raspberry Pis, by the way. They are great. Although, I have another project coming up too. Next week we'll probably tackle that. It's the Jetson Nano from NVIDIA. The one thing about the Pis is they're not very good with video and gameplay. Now you might be thinking, what? You can't play games on this? You'd be incorrect. One, you can play games, specifically a lot of older emulation games. And on top of that, the Jetson Nano has that really powerful GPU processor in there compared to a Pi, of course. I wanted to get a more full system for YouTube videos and that type of thing. The Pi handles YouTube like garbage, basically, and a lot of videos just in general. So that's why I'm like building out my own Jetson Nano image. I know that's a little more obscure, but very much like the Pi, it just, I wanted something with a little more graphic backing, because then I could pipe big games. Like if I wanted to play stuff from like my Windows server, which I'm going to have a Windows server with all my games on it, and then just pipe all those games right over to my Linux boxes, and then my Jetson Nanos. Oh man, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, let's go repositories. What are we at? Wheezy. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Wheezy. That's old. They need to update their documentation. Holy crap. All right, Raspbian. Just, okay, there's Bullseye here, guys. There's even Bookworm. We're not going to do Bookworm. Let's do Bullseye. Or should we do Bookworm? What do you guys think? Let's take a poll in chat. Bookworm, I think, is going to be Debian 10. Bullseye is going to be based off of Debian 11, I believe. So, here we go. Poll time. Let's go create poll. Which Debian? Which Debian we doing? Me and my good English. Debian 12. Bookworm. This is like a beta. It's not official yet. Debian 11 Bullseye. Ooh, man, we might actually have a poll where it's not 50-50 for once. That would be insane. This would be more stable, I would say. So if we want to go stable, bullseye, ask community. All right, I'd love to hear your thoughts in chat. Let me know on the poll here. What are we doing? Are we doing Debian 12, the beta bookworm, or are we doing 11? Let me know. Lot of worm, some bullseye in chat. See Dawn there saying it's bullseye. Not surprising. Dawn always likes the stable stuff. Can't hate on you for that, man. When it just works, it works. There's something to be said for it just works. Ooh. Oh, man. Bookworm. See? There was a big vocal minority there. I honestly thought Bookworm was going to come out ahead, but Bullseye is more stable. And it is probably going to be a better experience. Man, you guys losing by a lot, too. It's funny. I think there's like a psychology behind. I've been doing a lot of polls on all the live streams. I think there's a psychology behind you want to vote for the underdog. Like, there's just like a basic human need to see the one that's losing ahead, because I've done so many polls and have never seen anything perform above 60%. Almost every poll I've done, it's always been 40% to about 50%. Well, so yeah, Bookworm is stable on computers. Raspbian just started putting Bookworm in, I want to say. It's a Pi, though. I think there's also a vocal minority just like seeing stuff blow up, too. So, nothing wrong with that. Alrighty, guys. We're approaching 100 votes, which I think that's pretty much what we're at in chat, right? I always forget to check how many viewers we have. All right, we're a little over 100 votes. We're going to end it there. Bullseye is the winner of the contest. Now, let's go back to old Raspberry Pi. And here we go. Let's upgrade to some Bullseye here. We were on Buster, so what we do for this upgrade, we'll just come back, do a listing, and we're just going to do a sudo vim sources list. And we're just going to go, actually, we're just going to go %s Buster, and we'll change that to Bullseye. Replace. Boom. So all of the Busters are replaced with Bullseye now. Let's save that out. And now we just do a sudo apt update, and then we'll probably have 1,500 packages. It works 60% of the time, every time. Sex Panther. It's a great quote. Love Anchorman. Love Anchorman. So good. Bullseye is up. Well, I mean, it's Debian. I mean, that like Arch people would just say, you're running Debian. Everything's out of date. That's what an Arch user thinks of anything based on Debian. So there's some beauty to running older packages. Upgrade. Can I spell upgrade here? All right. Let's upgrade that bad boy. Oh, crap. I should do dist upgrade, shouldn't I? Ah. Yeah. Oh, well. We'll do a dist upgrade after the package download. Vim. Normalized audio. That's what I was using. I probably should disable that screensaver, too, but... Nah. Too late. Do you still think the Debian way is correct? Being so old, although stable, nowadays should not be problematic so long as you're not in the last verb. Alright, well this is going to run for a little bit. Let's just run this in the background. We'll come back into chat. We'll go through here. I'll let you guys know how it's going over here. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Muck. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I love these live streams because you can kind of see a little bit more, where a YouTube video is more of that cut down and you really can't ask questions and you just don't get sometimes the whole picture because everything has to be condensed in usually like between a 10 and 20 minute video. That's good. Do you think I love this question though. Meg, I really, really love this question. Do you think the Debian way is correct, being so old although stable? Yes, I think it's correct. For some. Let me explain. Do a little shout out to the Gary there. I would say Debian, why it's good and why it's so stable is because when you use your computer, you want a reliable experience most of the time. Unless you're me. Me, I like to tinker. I like to break things. I like things not to work so then I can fix them and learn something new. That's how I view things. I view failure as a necessity. I like things to fail because that's when all the learning happens. When things are just stable, it's boring, it's reliable, it's productive. All those are good things for most people. So that's why I say for some. But most people use their computer to do certain things. And they always do those same things. That's why I say Macs are boring. But I use a Mac for my video editing because it never changes. I know everything is always the exact same, and it's always going to do exactly what I want. And that makes me way more productive than if I was constantly kind of shifting things around. It's just not very exciting. So that's the difference between the stable approach and more of the bleeding edge. And there's beauty in both. And it's important to know that. And I always, my biggest thing, I always say my tagline, and it is, to succeed, you have to fail. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but success is made from failure. No one just gets it right every time. So I love the failure aspect. That's why I love Arch and a lot of that stuff, but just anticipate problems because it's going to happen. Where on Debian, it's just so stinking stable that you can't really break it. Like, I tried. I really tried. I, upgraded to SID. And then I was like, this is going to break something. No. It ran pretty darn stable for, 6 months without any of it. I think I tried to break it a couple times, and then, no, it just didn't. But let's see how the upgrade goes here. I forgot to do a dist upgrade. Maybe today you get to see Debian break. We'll find out. Great question, though. Great question. I love the question. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. You know someone's an OG when they ask about Bender. I need to bring back Bender. And I got something here. Let's see. Do I have... I'll give you a little sneak peek of something I'm working on. Let's see. Do we have a little shot of this? I don't know what this is gonna do. Don't worry, I'm still here. I'm gonna click a new scene that I'm setting up. Push-ups are gone, but this is something I set up. In just back here, there's an invisible door to another portal realm that is 10 feet away. And is this still on? Oh man, it's not. Properties. Let's see. All right, I gotta find that. Let's restart this. Maybe. Nope. All right, 1 second. We'll hit OK to that. Man, that'd be pretty cool. Let me track down where this camera went. Got a camera. It's amazing. But it's not over there. So, let me do a scan. Oops. Yep, that was the wrong computer. And I think it's 109. Ah, no. It's gone. All right, so my camera switched IPs. I'm like a big noob and forgot to put a static in it. It's still installing over here, guys. We're fetching. It's actually still downloading it. I think it just finished the download of the last like 1,000th package. So now it's going to be doing the install shortly. Now, where would I can grab that IP? Probably the... Yeah, I know where to grab it. I'm going to just pull up. I'm not going to show you guys this just because I didn't want to expose my whole network to... I don't want to dox myself on the internet, even though I've done that in the past. I think we got something here. Let's go devices, clients. All right, where is this device? Ah, it moved on me. That's where it went. All right, we got something. I'm going to show you this new scene for push-ups. The ultimate push-ups, pull-ups, everything. You're going to be like, what did you do, Titus? I'm really building up the suspense here. I think this is I think it's that address now. If I hit OK. Maybe. Ah, there it is. Boom. Yeah. Uh-oh. Minor glitch there. Need to probably get a better camera. That one is not great. But anyways, this was kind of what I've been setting up. The old rack there. Note to self, that camera is garbage. All right, well, we'll work on that some. To be continued sometime in the future. But I have actually been going out there and using it, so it's great. What do we got? What else we got here? Let's come down. Oh, got this on the desktop. Let's see what we got. We're gonna get a lot of that, so we'll probably end up doing like a... Probably want to keep our... Nah, let's go with the package maintainers edition of this. So we're gonna go install that. Let's just see what else we get. Would probably be a couple of those that pop up. Oh my gosh, Michael. Actually, Ubuntu Server, I do enjoy Ubuntu Server. I just don't like Ubuntu's GUI or snap packs. If I remove snap packs and you don't have any GUI on the front end and you can build off Ubuntu Server, it's actually a pretty good experience. Not terrible. Johnny, hey there, I love your content. Are you into PF Sense? Would love to see your take on it and some content. Yes, I've actually done some PF Sense content. I actually ordered my own little board, I think from like PC Engines out of China, and they manufactured that for me and sent it over, and I built my own PF Sense router and gateway. I don't use that anymore, but yeah, I love PF Sense. It's actually my favorite software for the gateway portion. I bounce around a little bit depending on what's going on here locally, but PF Sense is usually one of my favorites. Because of all the options, and like PF Blocker NG is amazing. It makes Pi-hole look like nothing. So PF Sense is great. I probably should do some more content for sure. Yeah. I do need to upgrade that camera on the old deal. Oh, sheesh. All right. Now, that's fighting words, Michael. No. Mm-mm. Hate the desktop, but Linux in it is based on Ubuntu, and it's a completely different... Yeah, desktop's really what most people gripe about. Too many people focus on the distribution. Most people don't realize it's all underneath it all. It's all pretty much the same stuff, just with different coats of paint. What about the file system? File system, I really like BetterFS these days. BetterFS and me get along great. I also really like XFS, which doesn't get much love. XFS is a little more performant than ext4. It's not like earth-changing or anything like that, but it is a little faster usually. So XFS is actually pretty great. Rarely do I use ext4 these days. Very, very rarely. Could you make a config variant of the Arch Titus script that can be used on Arch Linux or any Arch derivative distros for people who like packages and optimizations you made? Yeah, I can probably do like a little branch and do it, or maybe that's a whole new different project. But yeah, usually what I'm doing, bend over. But what I'm doing there, Ben, is I want to make different installs of that based on Arch. So probably one of my future forks of that Arch script is to say BSPWM or Awesome Window Manager, whatever it might be, and you would just go git clone -b for branch, and then you just select that branch, and that way it wouldn't run the original script. It would run that variation of the same script with just a couple options changed. But a good idea. I definitely will probably do something like that for just general optimization scripts for those that want things changed. Or maybe even go a little broader instead of going that route, because the Arch script's really meant for a fresh install. So probably like a KDE optimization script that would do checks to see what distro you're running, because it's really Arch-based, Fedora-based, or Debian-based, right? And then it would figure out which one of those you're running, and then it would go ahead and customize all the KDE with all the optimizations that I make on each one. But good idea. I'll definitely put it in the future here. Yeah, GNOME is great for Mac users. But I hate Mac, so. I mean, hate's a strong word, not hate. Like I said, Mac's very reliable. I use it for my editing. It's a very consistent experience. I just find it boring. And GNOME, on the other hand, actually, okay, no, I hate GNOME. Mac's okay, but GNOME, my biggest gripe with GNOME, where I think the developers were on some kind of narcotic, and I might be dramatizing this a little bit, but it's YouTube. That's what we do here. Okay, this is the most asinine thing about GNOME. I have to get this off my chest. People are always like, why don't you like GNOME? Okay. It's this one thing that I think is just completely crazy. It's this. You have to launch a web browser with an extension in that web browser to to install extensions for the operating system. That is beyond idiotic. Like, GNOME developers, if anybody sees this rant, you are just, what were you thinking? Were you just like, you know what, let's bring up the browser and then install an extension on that browser. We'll rewrite that extension for both Firefox, Chromium, and then we'll add like a web store or something. Then we'll click it. It'll interface and add to it. But that's not it. We're going to add versioning so when people upgrade GNOME, those extensions won't work because then that developer has to upgrade that extension for it to work here. Oh man, it's going to be the best nightmare scenario, so you can't upgrade consistently and have a good experience with our desktop. That's the GNOME way. Unless, of course, you don't use extensions and you just like everything completely vanilla. GNOME, though, terrible, horrible, awful setup, infrastructure, everything. Terrible, 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 terrible desktop environment. And that's why I don't like GNOME. Good question, though. That's not really a question. I think that was just triggering me. Do you think BetterFS is okay for SSD longevity? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, you get a couple more writes with some of the snapshotting and other things, but a lot of people don't even use the snapshot capabilities. So it's, not too bad. KDE is a mess. I love KDE, but I agree. The problem with KDE is there's just so many applications that are worthless. Contact, Kmail, all that crap. It's just blah. Like, no one uses it. They just need to, they're really good at setting up an environment. What the KDE team needs to do and go, okay, all this stuff we make is garbage. Let's just dump it, clean it up, make it more minimal, and then KDE would be perfect. But in its current state, like the stock bloated install, it's just too much stuff. Damon, hey Chris, how are you, man? What do you think of virtualization in TrueNAS? In my opinion, it's weak. Yeah, so TrueNAS is based on BSD, and I'm not a big fan of jails, which is what TrueNAS uses for a lot of the stuff. I haven't really done too much direct virtualization in TrueNAS. What TrueNAS really excels at is it's a fantastic storage system. So if you're looking for a NAS box, TrueNAS is amazing. They do a great job for the storage component, but it's not an all-in-one solution that they would make it out to be. I would say TrueNAS really shines for that. But I mean, and that's fine from a business perspective. It's not like you want to virtualize off your storage box. That doesn't make any sense. How a business would work, you'd have your SAN or your network attached storage over here. You'd have your hosts that provide all the power for your virtualization. All your VMs run here, and then they just connect to the storage through iSCSI, NFS, and then everything runs. And it's just, it's so good. So I love TrueNAS, but jails and virtualization and all this, it's not an all-in-one box. It's not really a great solution for that. And honestly, when it comes to virtualization on any storage box, it's still not a great solution. It's like what you do in a pinch, or if it's just needing a little bit of something. Like on my Synology box, I don't particularly like ever using the virtualization station, I think it is, or whatever the virtualization on Synology, or QNAP2 for that instance. Because you're running the virtualization, which requires a lot of resources. You're far better off using a container like Docker and running that in a containerized storage than anything. So that's just my 2 cents, though. TrueNAS, though, amazing for storage. Everything else kind of unless it's like a beast of a system, and then maybe get some stuff. If it's thousands of dollars and you threw a ton of resources and made it real heavy, it could work. But again, why? You're better off just getting 2 boxes, one that has all the horsepower that connects to the storage, in my opinion. That's just more of a best practice for any kind of environment setup. What else we got? Da. Oh man, yeah, that gnome rant probably did some people probably were like, whoa, that was harsh, probably a little harsh. Also, TrueNAS does use ZFS, and ZFS is my favorite file system for BSD systems. I say for BSD systems because ZFS is still a bit janky getting it working in Linux, and I'd rather just use BetterFS at that point. Oh man, so actually when I first created the channel back in 2018, I did an optimization script to change things around, and I think I forked someone else's optimization script, and then I fixed a lot of like the repositories and other things. I wonder if it still works. But yes, I changed it all around to make it look more like, I made GNOME look like a Windows environment. That's how much crazy I was back then. Don't do that. Just choose a different desktop environment. I probably will not update that script. Chris, which distro do you use? Have you any distro to use? What is it without telemetry? Linux telemetry is a little bit different. It's not very egregious. So telemetry is like a non-starter. There's not gonna be a distribution that I'm like, oh, their telemetry is so egregious I can't use that distro. Other than maybe Ubuntu, just because of their track record with, what was it, the Amazon store and some other weird telemetry they had in the past. But, I mean, for the most part, every Linux distro is pretty solid. No telemetry concerns for me. However, again, too many people focus on distros. Usually, you're going to be the philosophy, your philosophy. Do you want to be on the bleeding edge with the most packages and crazy stuff? Arch is where you want to be at. Do you want something just stable, reliable, doesn't really change much? Debian is where you're going to be. In the end, I don't recommend installing Arch or Debian as a beginning user just because it's kind of a crazy experience. I'm trying to fix that with some scripts like my Arch script, and now I'm doing the Debian script. It's just getting all that packaged up for a new user is what I want to get to have a good experience. It's just, again, it's going to be a minute. But we're going to be working on that some more on Tuesday as well. But at the end of the day, when it comes to distros, every distro sucks. You got to customize it. You don't want to customize it? You don't want to use terminal? Don't use Linux. That is my new stance. If you don't want to customize or use terminal, Linux is not for you. I really, really believe that. If you're going to try and use it like a Windows or a Mac, it's not going to be a good experience. So it just depends on where you're at. Raspberry Pi Retro Gaming Box. Yeah, that's kind of what we have on TitusPi. That's been set up. How's that working? Let's come on over here. Nope. Do you want to restart services without asking? Yes, please. All right, it's still going. My bad. There was a question it was asking and I forgot. It's going though. Here's our progress. Got another question. We'll just do install. We're gonna do the package maintainers for this. Typically you would say no, so you keep your current customization. However, since we're doing a distribution upgrade, I would definitely recommend not keeping your version because it's a version that was based on something that doesn't exist anymore. So typically you'd always want to upgrade to the package maintainers version because there's going to be something in those config files that probably is exclusive for that version. So if you ever do an upgrade of Debian from like what was 10 Buster? Yeah, if you like, we were on Debian 10 Buster and we're going to Debian 11, which is Bullseye. You're going to get those questions. Do not keep your current config. Just go ahead and change that. So, all right, we'll let that run in the background. We'll check on it again here in a second. But yes. Beyond being a content creator, what's the point of setting up a localized server for personal use? It gives you a lot of versatility to do whatever you want. So a lot of times I'm known for blowing my system up or deleting everything. And without that local server, with all my backups, without a living environment for a lot of times, like I'm like, oh, accidentally blew up my studio PC. I don't really care. It hosts all my data. I never have to worry about me doing something silly and deleting something and not being able to recover it. All those things. There's a lot of benefits for a localized server for personal use. It's a good question, Ben. But I've always had some type of localized server. Nothing this big since I've done YouTube, but usually I've always had some kind of backup like that. No. Gruda, no. No. It's just it Arch with a crap ton of packages installed, and man, no. I love the one thing I will say. I like to give compliments at least, and not just say everything's terrible. It'd be negative Nancy. Gruda has a beautiful desktop, but I think every Linux distribution should take from that example and make their desktop beautiful looking out of the box. That's the one thing Gruda does right. Open ZFS. Beware. I think that was the big thing with Linux and why ZFS. So if ZFS was truly open, had a complete open licensing agreement, and it could easily be implemented into Linux, then I would use ZFS. But in its current state, the licensing is really the problem with ZFS, and Oracle is to blame for that, as I think Linus Torvalds told us. Best Linux distro, probably Arch or Arch-based distros. It usually have the best compatibility because you're on the bleeding edge. You're able to do a lot with it. But best distro, again, we're talking branches, not distros. Branches are really the big thing. Yeah, oil. And usually that's where I tell people is you probably want to do like a Debian-based distro with KDE if you're a Windows user. I usually say that's really good. Kubuntu is actually a decent install, a bit bloated. Mint doesn't use KDE, it uses Cinnamon, but also a very good distro. I love Mint because it's not as customizable and there's less things for a user to screw up on it. So that's why Mint is usually what I push people to start off with. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to use Terminal, but again, I'm to the point, Michael, I think everyone should learn Terminal if they're going to use Linux. Because there's going to be things that pop up, and it's going to be so much easier to troubleshoot and do in Terminal. If you don't want to learn Terminal or you don't ever want to open Terminal, I don't think Linux is really the thing for you. I know that's going to piss some people off, but man, I'm to the point where I'm like, nah. I get this every single stream. Stream Beats, Synthwave, by Harris Heller and the Alpha Gaming Crew. Amazing. Free, copyright-free music. Love it. Freaking amazing. Linus drops things, Chris blows up his COS. Not wrong. Do you have a clean boot image on that server? I mean the LAN boot one. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't... Kind of. Like, I change my system so much that there's never, like, one image that I always go back to. I'm always like, man, I could do this better. This could be better. There's always some improvement to be made. I'm never happy with what I make. There's always improvements. Arch devs. So the Arch devs, they might be some stoners. So they did something lately that I really hate. I know why they did it, but I hate it. If you've ever set up Arch Linux before, it used to be so much easier on a laptop. You would just go Wi-Fi-menu. You'd get this nice like dialogue prompt, and it would walk you through setting up your Wi-Fi network. The only thing you had to remember was Wi-Fi-menu. In recent releases this year, they've removed Wi-Fi menu because I think one of the dependencies or something went out of date, and they've replaced it with IWCTL, and it's okay. I mean, you learn the syntax. 10 commands later, you'll be connected to your Wi-Fi network. It sucks, though. I mean, it's like they took something that was so easy, and now it's way more difficult for most users. And I'm just like, this is the most Linux thing ever. That's Arch for you. I'm like, But yeah, I hated that. But yeah, they should stop playing Fortnite, stop smoking so much doobie, and learn, hey, it's okay to make something usable. And if it's something already usable, try and like keep it usable for like a new user. I mean, just yelling at people to RTFM, not a great marketing strategy. Linux Mint, Pop! OS, Manjaro have been great help to Linux users like myself and have recently transitioned from Windows by offering GUI alternatives. Agree to disagree. That's where I'm at. I do think those are great starting points for new users, but eventually you're going to run into something. Every distro, you're going to run into something and you'll be like, oh, how do I fix this? And you're going to need to use a terminal. I mean, eventually you're going to have to get to the terminal. And if you're relying on GUIs to get you there, man, I don't know. Maybe OpenSUSE with their Yast implementation is probably the most comprehensive GUI solution. Even though I'm not an OpenSUSE fan, it's just, I mean, there's not a GUI for everything in Linux. There's just not. Like, with Windows, there's a GUI for everything. You can do everything through a GUI if you want. I still use PowerShell for a lot of stuff, but that's just because I'm me. But Linux, there's not GUIs for certain things. Like, add a user or change a lot of the perms. I mean, yes, that can be done in a GUI. In a lot of those distros you mentioned, it's just so much of it is changing like UDEV drivers for whatever it is. A lot of it just can't be done in a GUI. It's just certain things on how Linux is structured. It's based around server first, and then the GUI is an afterthought with not very much resources. Where like Windows and Mac, the GUI is at the forefront. Everything's designed with a graphic user interface in mind, and then the admin commands in the terminal and all that, or PowerShell for that, is made after, usually. Or maybe it's just making sure that interface works, but everything that can be done over here usually can be done in the GUI. Where in Linux, there's just certain things that just can't be done in a GUI. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. IWCTL really does suck compared to Wi-Fi menu. But the response from the Arch devs is like, it's only like 10 commands. You could have one little short command that gives you a walkthrough, or you only type these 10 long commands where you can totally screw stuff up and not get connected. Arch logic. I'm curious on this. I almost want to buy Alder Lake just to do those tests. Probably, what creator will have the performance out first for that? Probably level 1 text. I think they get I think they have a pretty good working relationship with Intel, and I think they'll get a lot of the products first, and they're probably already benchmarking Alder Lake on Linux. So I would check out Level 1 Techs for see what those performance things are. How are we with the upgrade? That's a good question. Let's see here. It's churning. We're getting that Pi upgraded. Raspberry Pi 3. 750 megs of RAM, not even a gig. it's getting there. Only got 760 more packages to go. Soon. Probably by the end of the stream. Let's see here. All right, take it easy, Meg. Thanks for stopping by. Used to be just $1 prompt. Let's see. What do you think about hidden Wi-Fi SSIDs? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of pointless. If you're going to hack Wi-Fi, you're going to be on Linux, and you're going to be doing a scan to find a lot of these IDs anyways. And if there's any kind of packet traffic, you're still going to be able to hack it. So, I mean, hidden SSIDs, it offers a little bit of protection, but not very much. It's not like, ooh, you need to do this for security. It's most times more hassle than it's worth. It's cool. I'd love to get a Pi 400. That's the all-in-one with a keyboard. I'd be down. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I still just buy the Pi. What kind of backup strategy program do you recommend when you're reinstalling blowing up a system so often? CloneZilla's great if you're looking for a free and open source solution. CloneZilla's amazing. Highly recommend it. Past CloneZilla, I really like Synology's offering. Synology's offering is really good. The active backup for business is what it's called. I use that the most for my Windows-based systems. So Windows, I would do something like that. Other Windows Server type stuff, man, it's been a little bit. I use Backup Exec and some other stuff, which is like, it's not aged well. Backup Assist for Windows Server is pretty decent. But for Linux, usually CloneZilla is where I'm at, or you just back up your home drive if you don't care about like system settings. So that's another thing. That's one beauty about Linux is everything's kind of contained in that home folder for the most part. So obviously some system settings aren't, but for the most part all your home user settings are all in that home folder, and you just pop that on a new drive and you're good. So you don't even need to do a full image with CloneZilla in Linux. It's just so much easier. Thanks for the super chat. Making school bearable on Fridays. That's awesome, man. Let's see. Why buy a Pi just for Pi-hole? Which one should I get? I wouldn't use Pi-hole. I really don't like the Pis for that. One, they're not like super performant. Obviously, we're still installing an upgrade. But I would highly recommend a pfSense box for your... I would take that money and make like a pfSense box for your gateway, and then use like PF Blocker with all the Pi-hole block lists. So you block your ads. You could do GeoIP blocking. You could do so much cool stuff for like security purposes on PF Blocker. And pfSense firewall rules are actually really cool. I love how like you have your rules, you have your NAT, and how you're able to really customize how your network works, and it helps a lot with security. So, not a big fan of Pi-hole. I highly recommend using pfSense, really, with PF Blocker, with the Pi-hole serverless to block the ads. More powerful, what is there? Chat can probably help us out here. What do we got? Droid? What is it? Droid Pi or what's that? R-Droid? I can't remember. I also have back there, I'm working on an image for the Jetson Nano, which is more GPU based, more graphic elements to it that are way better than the Pi. What do we have? Odroid, that's what I was thinking. Rock Pi, that's another good one. Odroid N2, yeah. So probably Rock Pi and Odroid 2 are good for processing. I really like the Jetson Nano for GPU-based acceleration. Yeah, I'd say those three are probably a good starting point for you. Can you run Pi or Linux on an NVIDIA Shield? Never tried, because I think the NVIDIA Shield is a bit redundant for me, because I'd much rather have a full open source kind of system that I can just do my own thing on, and then run Moonlight. If you haven't checked out my video on Moonlight, highly recommend it. That's how you would take your gaming PC, and then you got like, I was gaming on Warframe, or not Warframe, Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone, which is like a 200 gig game. I was playing that on my Pi using Moonlight, which was connected to my NVIDIA graphics card over here. So that's all open source until you get to the actual gaming box. So I don't see a point in the NVIDIA Shield. That's why I've never bought one. But I do get, it has everything just kind of baked in for folks that don't want to tinker. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, the Shield is a bit more pricey too. For making a rudimentary autonomous rover, will the NVIDIA TX2 be sufficient? Don't know enough to answer that question. Good question, though. I like it. All right. Through chat. Let's see what we got. How are we doing on our desktop on the install? Hey, we're 85% there. We're getting there, guys. I think a lot of people are wondering if this is going to brick the system or not. I don't think it will. I think we'll have a good working image after this. We'll have to check the memory usage. We are around 450 to 500 megs on boot. So I'm worried that might go up with Bullseye, but we'll have to check that as well. Yeah, my system gets 260 megs at boot. It's good, Peter. I think the thing with this system is I have so much stuff loaded in it for a lot of compatibility, because a lot of people have Pis for the emulation station style of things. So it has all that built-in ROM. It uses like a Samba share and other things, so you can connect up with the Pi and then load up your Nintendo and Super Nintendo games and then play them through this system. So that's why. What sort of framework do you get from Super Tux Card? We can try it out. We can try that, Evelyn, to see what we get after this. Yeah, usually I package up this image afterwards and then just upload it to the website. This will be Pi 3, TitusPi 3, third version, which I probably will dump the first version, as that was based off of a really early version, and I don't think I really update that anymore, so might actually just dump all the other old versions. Yeah, we'll see. Because I did get a question like, which version do I use? And I'm like, hey, you want the latest. But yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. So we're at 90%. We're almost there. Almost there. I answered a couple more questions. So we got to do the FPS check on TuxCart, sure. I bet the Pi won't score very well in this one. Someone well-versed in technology, how do you feel about surveillance, telemetry going on with private companies selling our data? Probably the most concerned I'm at is with the mobile phone, not so much the desktop environment. The mobile phone's very, very bad. And that's the one that worries the most, is how aggressive the data collection is, and a lot of like the geo data that is in these guys. These guys are not good. These phones are the devil. But yeah, that's where we need to focus most of our efforts. Getting an alternative to that, like Linux phones or whatever it might be, is important. It's just difficult. Again, I think earlier in the stream I mentioned the difference between security and convenience. They've made these things so convenient. They're almost like a third appendage for many people. For a NAS, is USB sharing from the router sufficient, or true NAS is the way to go? I hate USB sharing. USB sharing from a router is awful. I mean, if you don't care about like transfer rates and you're a very patient person, okay, maybe. I mean, reliability is also an issue here. True NAS is just, yeah, it's not even the same realm, man. It's like comparing a pro basketball player to someone that is like in Little League basketball, whatever that is. I mean, it's not a comparison at all. Ugh. USB sharing. I really hate USB sharing, if you guys didn't know. PinePhone Pro, 100%. Librem has had so many problems. They've had their chance. They haven't delivered anything that resembles even close to a good product. And it's been years. PinePhone Pro is our greatest hope. For sure. Not even kidding there. But I still hope Librem continues. Maybe they'll come back and surprise me and really, really improve their product a lot. Because they have a lot of catch up to go to even get close to the PinePhone. First time. Oh, welcome. I'm able to catch the stream because this time of time difference is in India. Anyway, Fedora 35 versus latest Ubuntu release thoughts. Ooh, latest Ubuntu. Ubuntu 22, is that out? Or are you talking about like the 21? So when it comes to Ubuntu releases, I will say this. Only do the even releases. So Ubuntu 16, good. 17, terrible. 18, good. 19, terrible. 20, good. 21, the worst ever. 22, should be good. So that's how Ubuntu releases work. They throw in a bunch of garbage in the odds, and then they kind of clean it up and make like an LTS support for the evens. So that's good. However, if I had to run one of those as a daily driver, I would probably pick Fedora. I really like Fedora for a lot of things, and it depends on what your comfort level is and your package selection. Ubuntu is going to give you a greater package selection, but Fedora is a better distribution just overall, in my opinion. Good question, though. I don't really talk about de-Googling Android because I don't think it's a good solution. I did it. It works. It's okay. If you're going to want to go down that path, Graphene OS with like a Google Pixel or Calyx OS. Calyx OS is probably a better solution between the two. I'd say Calyx OS is it. I don't mess around with any other custom ROMs. There's something, there's an old adage, an old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, right? That's so true here, because when you get into these custom ROMs, you just don't know what that person has done. I can speak directly to Graphene OS and Calyx OS that I know they're good. They have all the source code available. I believe it's all open source, and we can actually take a look at those OSs and what they're doing to them. and there's enough of a population doing that we can hold them accountable, and they're giving you a better privacy and security experience. That's the only two I say that to. All the other custom ROMs and all that other stuff, stay away from it. You just don't know what that guy has slipped in there, because they can slip in some really nefarious things, and you're better off being a slave to the Google gods than you are with these rando guys making custom ROMs. That's why I'm like, I just kind of stay away from that, and it attracts some weird people. Like, anytime I talked about de-Googled Android, I got some weird people sending me stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to mess with that anymore. Oof. So that's kind of my thoughts. If you really are interested in it, Calyx OS would be my recommendation. Or Calyx OS, I don't know how you say it. But Google it, it'll show up. It's probably one of the top hits. I think Tech Lord does a lot of videos. I highly recommend his channel if you're into that thing. Hey, I think we're almost done here, guys. Look at this. Let's do it. Here we go. So we've upgraded everything. I always like to run another update just to see. Just to make sure it says all packages are up to date. And then usually whenever I change the distro, I want to make sure I do a dist upgrade as well, just to package it all in. I think dist upgrade is Ubuntu though. I don't think Debian really does dist upgrade. I could be wrong with that though. Nah. Uh-oh. Did not get it all. What are we missing? Yeah, all right. Let's do dist upgrade, see what happens. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh, Scoob. We may have broken our stuff. It breaks that, do we have held packages? Let's go to help. Show hold. All right, so let's go apt mark. Show hold. Why is that held? That's weird. This right here is kind of odd. Why is that package held? That's just nuts. All right. Just making sure. Maybe I'll run that as sudo just to make sure. Yeah, I didn't think that would change anything. That's strange. I don't think this is going to work. Dist upgrade. I think it's still probably going to be broken. Yep. All right. libgcc 8 dev. All right, so purge. So what I'm doing here, we need to get these dependencies in line. This is hopefully not a huge dependency for anything. But, oh, crap. I mean... yeah, we got to do it, guys. Let's just go ahead and purge that, and then we'll do a dist upgrade. We got to fix these dependencies, because if I reboot right now, I almost guarantee you it's not going to be in a functional state. I could port. Well, so like Arch Titus has some stuff. It's not going to work 100% because since the Pi, so the difference between like a regular computer and the Pi is ARM architecture. Really important to know because that means the package selection is considerably less because all your packages have to be compiled for ARM. And obviously x86, which was pretty much what everything runs on, all those packages are made for x86. As ARM becomes more popular, we'll have more selection. So true. Yeah, we could do an auto clean. We'll probably do like an auto clean, auto remove. Let's see. You got -F to fix broken. Yeah, that could fix it as well. That's okay though. Let's see. This is just news, right? You should be able to quit. Just do a queue. It's just kind of letting me know what's up. Minecraft.christitus.com. I don't do any tech stuff over there though. That's just for Minecraft, really. I think there's a couple people that pop in there. Maybe I'll add like a tech channel, but oh man, it's crazy. ARM is so old. Why the return? ARM can be extremely power efficient compared to x86. So ARM's really good in that regard. Although we're starting to see this new mix, like I think it was Apple that really did like efficiency cores and performance cores, and then it's Intel's recent Alder Lake. They started doing the efficiency cores and performance cores, and still the x86 architecture, where obviously Apple moved to ARM. But it's interesting to see. This is a pretty exciting time to be alive right now, with a lot of stuff happening. I wonder what it's going to look like in a year or two. That's why I was like, hold off on buying stuff just yet. Do you have a dual PC setup? Yeah, I have. Right here I have like the Mac Mini, which is what I use most of my daily driving on, or the video editing on. And then I have my Stream PC, which is all Windows, because I have a whole bunch of like Elgato stuff on it. And then I have my main studio PC, which is usually running Linux. Sometimes I'll have like dual boot into Windows 11 just to break stuff, try out new things in Windows 11. And then I have the Pi over here, which I don't know if you count that as a system. All right. Okay. Go do that. Do you think ARM acquisition will happen? Should it? I'm excited for more stuff, man. I'm excited for more stuff to happen in that regard. I'm excited for ARM to come in. x86 has dominated it, and they've become real complacent with that architecture. Seeing like what Apple did with ARM is amazing. As much as I don't like Apple, I really love that they actually innovated for once. And you know, maybe this is still like reminiscences of Steve Jobs, that he put in this idea 10 years ago to make their own chips using ARM. And it's finally just kind of just now bearing fruit, so to speak. But yeah, I'm excited for that innovation. It tells other people, hey, you can use ARM for stuff. It's not just for Raspberry Pis, which is kind of cool. And people are really excited with RISC too, RISC architecture. I'm looking forward to that. I'd love to see more architecture come in and play the space. And like I said, I'm really excited to see what happens. How do you disable Intel ME? Typically, you would do something called, I think it's core boot. And some systems you can modify and change out Intel ME. Some systems you can't. So it just depends on what's going on. But research core boot. They have a whole big open source community. I think most of their stuff's on GitHub. But you can disable a lot of the management engine that Intel uses, which is considered a security vulnerability because of how that operates. I need to do like an X set and get rid of my screensaver here, don't I? Yeah, well. Yeah, x86 won't be replaced. It'll just evolve. You'll see it take some of the ideas that's happening in these other architectures, like you've already seen with Alder Lake. I mean, they I want to say they stole that idea from Apple with the efficiency cores and the performance cores. I mean, there's a lot of similarities there. We'll see. This window manager in the TitusPi is awesome window manager. So I like awesome. It's a little more complex because it's using Lua, but if you're familiar with Lua, it's fine. New Intels are not power hungry. Check the 12th gen, bro. It's just heat. No, their TDP is quite a bit higher, I believe, and I believe they're actually pulling more power when maxed out. Now, obviously, idle power is actually really good with the efficiency cores and how those work. You should see a good step down to where if you're just using efficiency cores, it's not going to be, that may even lose some power if you're not really stretching its legs, so to speak. But if you're really going at it, I guarantee you the power consumption from those Alder Lakes are going to be considerably higher than the Ryzen counterpart. I'm sure of it. 100%. So, yeah. All right, we're going to do a dist upgrade. What do we got? You got any packages? All package up to date? Nope, not yet. Okay. Now, let's try to upgrade. I don't have a good feeling about this upgrade. I'll tell you that right now. What are your thoughts on DDR5 RAM? Too expensive for my blood. Here, we'll go back to chat. Why this upgrades. I think everybody's seen an upgrade. All right, let's go. Here we go. DDR5 RAM. Yeah, I think hold off a little bit. You never want to get a first gen of anything. It's not good. Wait for the prices to come down. A lot of the chip shortages to hopefully get solved. So I would probably wait a good year and then look at maybe doing an upgrade to your system with DDR5. But don't run out there and grab it right now. See here, what else we got? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intel in chat here. Intel is still playing catch up, period. They don't have the infrastructure in place, and their manufacturing isn't as good as AMD. They've made hotter chips that suck more power. They've tricked the user base by basically packaging in these efficiency cores and performance cores and then partnered with Microsoft to do so. If you're not using Windows 11 with DDR5 RAM, with all those advantages to give that slight edge, we're talking single digits here on AMD's how long was the 5950? Was it been a year? It's barely edging out ahead with all these advantages. So Intel is like desperate. That's what Alder Lake is. It's really interesting, and I love that because out of desperation comes innovation, and they're trying to do it. Should you go out and buy an Alder Lake right now? No, you shouldn't. It's dumb. You're going to spend thousands of dollars and get a very tiny return. Wait a year. Intel is still not there for the desktop realm. Now, having said that, when it comes to laptops, Intel is still on top. And with this new innovation, with the efficiency and performance that they're trying to do, that's going to push their laptops out even further ahead of probably AMD. AMD never quite caught all the way up to Intel in the laptop realm. So it just depends on what you're doing. No hate either way. I'm just saying, Alder Lake is cool. I love this new innovation that in the direction they're heading. I think that's going to really spur competition even more. I'd hate AMD getting complacent over here. And I know AMD's like, oh, okay, well, we got something. I want to see what they have. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not hating on Alder Lake here. I'm just saying, guys, just wait. It's going to get good. It's going to get real good. I still think Intel is going to play in second fiddle. It's just wait. But there's going to be a lot of spin. There's going to be a lot of marketing. There's going to be a lot of things. But at the end of the day, nah. It's just not. It's just not. Don't worry about it. No, not the newer chips. Intel's more power hungry. Well, with the Alder Lake series, we're doing Alder Lake to the 5000 series is what I'm looking at. And also the Xeon processors in the server realm are really, really power hungry. So, nah, not necessarily. 5600G versus or 5600X. So it depends. If you can't get a GPU, then obviously the 5600G. But iGPUs suck. Any which way you slice it. I don't care if it's Intel, AMD, any kind of integrated graphics. It sucks. I mean, it's not like it's gotten better than it used to be. Like it used to be like struggling to play Snake or something. But I mean, that's a little exaggeration. But integrated graphics are not really meant for gaming, period. You need to get a graphics card if you really want to game. iGPUs are, no. They are what they are. But you really do want a 5600X with a GPU. Even if it's a crappy GPU. Even if it's like 2 generations old GPU. You're better off with a 2 generation old GPU than a 5600G with no GPU. M1 ARM could overtake. I don't know about that, man. So M1 chips for Apple appeal to a certain type of market. I think it'll spur innovation, which is good, but I do not think it will get anywhere close to overtaking Intel or AMD for that matter. The Apple M1 is cool, but let's not forget, they will eventually catch up and do different things. We're already seeing that with some of the evolution with Alder Lake and other things. It's just give it a year or two, and then the M1 Edge will lose out because not everybody uses Mac. Our AMD 6600 decent. I've never had an AMD, but the 66, yeah, so the new AMD graphics cards look amazing. I don't personally have any of the new generations because I refuse to spend $1,000 to buy a graphics card. It's ridiculous. I'm not spending that much money. We're getting gouged. I'd much rather buy a console. Well, you can't even buy those, but I'd much rather just wait for the prices to drop. Ethereum eventually is going to upgrade to 2.0. Graphics cards are just going to fall off a cliff when it comes to the used market. We'll be able to scoop up some cheapo graphics cards really soon. Again, well, maybe not really soon, but within the next year, I imagine we should do it. Unless Ethereum continues with proof of work. And then it's just more... I hate Ethereum. Just not a big fan of Ethereum anymore. I used to, once upon a time. But not anymore. But yes, wait. Wait. That's all I'm saying. Wait. But if you get those for a good price, the 6000 series of AMD are really good. Specifically, you know how like I had that Intel combination, Alder Lake, DDR5 plus Windows 11 equals a really high performance system, as long as you check all those boxes. The 6000 series card kind of has the same check boxes here. 5th gen AMD motherboard, check. What do you got? 5th gen AMD processor, check. Then you got the 6000 series graphics cards. If you hit all three of those, then you get, I think it was it. What's the technology AMD's using? I think it's something with the bandwidth that they're using. It's like a shared memory bandwidth that they're able to get a little bit more, like 5 to 10% more performance from having all those check boxes. So a good comparison there for you. So they can be very good, and if you check all those boxes, they're very close in performance to the NVIDIA counterpart. Yes, you should wait to upgrade. Wait at least 3 or 4 months, man. So on this, I don't like the Snap Discord. I highly recommend just downloading the package and throwing it in like your OPT directory or wherever you feel comfortable, and then doing like a symbolic link to your bin file. And then Discord's a lot better in that regard. That makes me chuckle. Yeah. It's already here. So here's the thing, NL. For those in the crypto crowd, here's what I'm going to tell you really unpopular. I stopped really making crypto videos just because I was pissing everybody off. But I like kind of poking the bear, so to speak. Here's a fun fact that I don't think anybody realizes. Ethereum is going to have a hell of a time upgrading. Why? Well, if you've been in IT for any type of period of time and you've done some programming, blockchain upgrades are some of the most difficult. Probably the best analogy I've heard of. It's like trying to rebuild an airplane while it's still flying in midair. That's pretty much what they're trying to do. And a lot of the original geniuses that made Ethereum a thing, yes, there's Vitalik Buterin that founded it. But a lot of the people behind the scenes have already left to go do their own thing. You got Gavin Wood with Polkadot. You have Charles Hoskinson with Cardano. You have a lot of these people that were founders of Ethereum that are no longer there. You think they're going to be able to upgrade and shard and do all these things perfect? We're talking billions of dollars that are about to just evaporate in thin air. Oh, man. It's going to be a glorious train wreck like the world has never seen in the finance sector. I think the catalyst will be whenever we see a correction in the 401ks or the stock market. And then that'll spur a big sell-off in the cryptocurrency market. There's this big marketing gimmick that happens in crypto. And I'll get off my soapbox here in just a minute. I just got to say this one last thing. Is... people think crypto's a store of value or it's any different. No. It's a speculative asset like no other, and I love it. I've made a ton of money off it, mind you. But at the end of the day, when this sell-off happens, people are rooting for the dollar to go down. Crypto is going to be the first casualty, and the beta of that, which means how much it's going to lose, is going to be amplified compared to the stock market. Stock market goes down 50%. Crypto is going to go down 90%. And that's just the correlation between the two. So those holding cryptocurrencies, rooting for the downfall of the stock market and that type of thing, y'all are going to get wrecked. Don't worry, though. What goes down must eventually come back up when it eventually happens. But will Ethereum ever be upgraded to proof of stake? Probably. I still think they can do it in the next year. I think it's just going to be the most clumsy, terrible implementation. And I just hope they don't suffer like a massive catastrophic problem like they had like 2 months ago, where someone took advantage of a bunch of staking pools and they had almost a 51% attack, which would have been very bad. 51% attack means people could reallocate balances and all kinds of shenanigans. Whew, playing with fire. Moving on, though. I don't do crypto. I just piss everybody off when I talk about it. Can you short ETH? You can't. So shorts are always an interesting dilemma when it comes to any kind of investment like that. Not investment advice. Shorts, like, I know eventually, everyone knows eventually the market's going to crash, right? It's got to correct, and it's got to have a major correction eventually. I mean, it's been going up for, I mean, geez, I could just pull up like the S&P and you just scroll out 10 years, you're like, oh my God, it's like, that's all it's done. There's been little corrections here and there, but nothing major. Eventually that has to come down to earth. It's just when. Can you hold on to your shorts long enough to hold out for that? What was it? Michael Burry, like he did the big short in the housing market. He's like, he knew that was going to happen. He just didn't know when, and he had to just hold on to these shorts and be hemorrhaging money, praying that eventually it will happen soon before he runs out of money. And that's basically the gamble. That's the gamble of everyone's playing right now. How are we doing on our install, by the way? All right, let's see. Looks like we're through most of the downloads. What do you think of dividend investing? It's good. If you don't make a lot of money, dividend investing, like, I think dividend investing starts seeing diminishing returns after you make like $1 million in revenue a year. But yeah, if you don't make over $1 million a year, which that's most of us, yeah, dividend investing is obviously a very smart play. Yeah, ASICs are interesting, but yeah, the cooling of the ASIC, what I'd like to see, honestly, on the ASICs, which is a little disappointing, as much as I crapped on water cooling earlier in the stream, that's one area that I think is a missed opportunity. You talk about a market demand that's just not met at all. ASICs with water cooling would be huge. Huge. Because they're so loud. I think they're like 70, 80 dB. I mean, that's how loud they are. And water cooling obviously would bring that decibel count down to like 10. I mean, it would be almost nothing. And yeah, water-cooled ASICs, I'm surprised never became a thing. Yeah, Ryan, the Debian distro, I have it up here on my top screen. I'll be doing that on Tuesday again. We're going to pick that project back up. Here's kind of where it's at. just to why we wait for this Raspberry Pi to do its thing. Let's come on over, and yeah, so this right here is, what do we got? Our Raspberry Pi. This is kind of wrong keyboard. So we have this, and I think I have variety set up too. I added some stuff since last we've done it. And let's quit that. We got Discord over here with this stuff. So I've been kind of setting things up a little bit, getting this running a little bit better. The next thing I'll probably do like a little cheat sheet. I'm wondering on the cheat sheet, do I like do a hotkey with a pop-up, or do like Conky where it's like a little overlay for the desktop? There's a lot of different things, so we'll kind of approach that aspect, because since it's a window manager, many people don't know how to use them. It's probably the best, most powerful way to use a computer, but a lot of people are like, crap, I don't want to keep track of 100 hotkeys or whatever it might be. But laying out those hotkeys in a cheat sheet until they become second nature, I think would be pretty awesome. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at with this. Getting it all laid out is the next thing, and I've done some theming a little bit with Funar for the manager, adding this, fixing like MIME types. I think we can do just like, let's say we're like in build and top 5 bootloaders. We could open a terminal here, and that tells us, hey, okay, so we're already in there, and we could, did I even do this? Let's go sudo install. Oh yeah, I did do this. But yeah, you get all these cool deals where we can just kind of flip through everything, use our system the way we want. And that's kind of how I wanted to set up the Pi too. Just kind of updating it to awesome and getting it over into the Bullseye branch is kind of what we're doing on this other side. But that's where we're on. On Tuesday, we'll revisit this, improve it some more. The big thing here is fixing this. You see how it's just numbers, and this looks ugly. So we're going to fix this to be more user-friendly and have like icons for each one. Force applications to open up on certain workspaces. So then if you do forget your hotkeys, you can just click it with a mouse. And just kind of building that out, thinking about it from a user perspective. And then I think I got Steam on here too now. So if we go Steam, we can play games, test out a lot of the gaming, because again, you're not really using much resources. So if we pull up our system here, don't need that. What do we got? We got like a whole bunch of stuff running in the background. Oh yeah, now with Steam running, we're gonna be using like 3 gigs of memory, but it's actually very, very performant, very snappy, and we can do a lot of things with it, which would be great. But again, we have to build that stuff out a little bit more, get it to a more usable space. So Tuesday, we're getting there. We've got kind of like the bones, and now we need to make it look good, work on the user experience, and make a more cohesive environment. So that's the big thing here. And yeah, we'll switch back here. Should have, yeah. So there's the Pi. Hopefully we finish before the stream ends today. What is it? Oh, it's already noon, so we got a little bit of time though. I think we'll get there. Have you spent much time with Sway? I have not. It's a good question. Yeah, we can do a Conky. I think Arco Linux's version of BSPWM uses Conky, so we probably will just grab theirs and then just modify it and pimp it out to our needs. Celsius, I don't think that much of an exchange. That's like a lending platform. I like them though. I think it's Alec Mishkinsky. I can't say his last name. He's the one that owns it though. He was actually the founder of VoIP, voice over IP. That's his patent and it's kind of his claim to fame. So there's some validity to them. How do I trust them? I don't know. It's hard to trust anything in the crypto realm these days, but better than most, I would say. If we go full economy here anyway, what is dividend investing? So, yeah, and that's everybody. That's around the world, Peter. The thing that drives me crazy is the thing that most people need to learn is get like a financial IQ and learning how money works. We're trained at such an early age just to spend, and get a good job, make a lot of money. And it's not about that. A lot of it is the overarching theme that everyone should think of when it comes to money is have your money make more money. Instead of working extra hard to make more money, which is good, but let's be real here. It'd be much better just to have our money make more money. And dividend investing is basically you have a stock you buy. Let's say you buy a $100 stock, but it pays dividends, and it pays 3% dividends per year. That means your $100 will make $3 per year in dividends. So it'll give you, usually they pay out in quarters, in 4 quarters, and every quarter you get part of that 3%. So you usually take it and then you reinvest it buying more stock. And since stocks don't work, you don't need one stock of everything. There's fractional investing. So then you buy your $100 stock. At the end of the year, you have $103 worth of stock, right? Well, as long as you're reinvesting that, then the next year, you'll have 3% of 103, which would be more money. So then you have that. But it doesn't stop there. The goodness of dividend investing, you get paid out in those dividends, which are taxable, by the way. That stock usually increases in value because everything in the world is being inflated. And inflation is fantastic for rich people with lots of assets. Stocks are assets, real estate's assets. Anything with assets is good for you. And so that $103, you just made $3 worth of more stock, but that stock itself is no longer worth $100. That stock is now worth $200. So you got more of the stock and the stock price has gone up. That's a win-win. The downside, the risk here is what happens when the market crashes. You lose money. So it depends on where you have the stocks and what companies are invested. All those different things come into play. But that's the general overarching idea that I think everyone should know. And I don't know. I guess, I mean, I don't want to be cynical and be like, I do know why, but I really wish they taught that in schools. Really, finance and understanding things. I highly recommend just, I would recommend a finance channel, but a lot of times finance channels on YouTube end up like chasing really crazy crap and it ends up being bad. Like, I used to love, what was it? Graham Stephan sometimes, but man, lately he's been talking about like Shiba Inu and Dogecoin and all this crap that's just so speculative that people are just going to lose everything. So I can't really even recommend a finance channel like I can tech channels. It's just sad, but something everyone should learn. Very important. So you can expand out the screens to however much you want. It's just a matter of setting that up in the desktop environment. That's the big thing. No, don't do it. Don't do it. My advice when it comes to crypto, and this is the last crypto video I made like 2 months ago on my crypto channel, is I invested in Ethereum at $19, or actually $17 a share, or per Ethereum. I bought it $17, and it's worth 500. What's Ethereum at today? I guess I could look it up on my phone here just to tell you. This was 2017 I bought it at. It's at $4,490. I bought 4 years ago $17. Now each one of those is worth $4,490. Do you think that's a bubble? I mean, come on. I feel like everybody's taking stupid pills. Like, yeah, that's crazy. That's why I stopped talking about crypto. It was just depressing. Eventually, this thing's gonna dump. And when it dumps, it's gonna dump hard. I sold, if you hadn't guessed. Yeah. Wait for the crash is my thing. Stay away. I don't think they'll be able to get away with too much of it. Libra already got shut down by the regulators. I don't think it'll be too much, and I don't think it'll go anywhere. Facebook, they burned too many bridges. You'd have to be a fool to trust them at this point. I just don't see them getting the adoption they need. OpenBox is really good. OpenBox, I think, is around 100 megs. It's mainly just theming out OpenBox and making it really good, really aesthetically pleasing. That's the difficult part there, Cresco. But OpenBox is an amazing desktop environment. Oh no! Oh, it's meta. Oh my gosh! Let me see if I gotta pull something up on the other screen. Speaking of that, you guys will get a good chuckle out of this. You'll love it. All right, here you go. Oh, let's see. What was it? Let's see if I can't find this. Oh, I'm not even logged in. Come on. Oh, here we go. Yes. Yes, let's flip that back. And then desktop. Come on. The similarities are uncanny. You cannot deny it. That's great. Meta. Oh, I love it. Yes. I will say, like, I think it was me and Dak, which is my new hire at work, were talking the other day, and we were talking about, you know, big data, like big tech. The 5 big technology companies: Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, and then Google, right? Those are the 5 ones. What's everybody's ranking from most evil to least evil? And that was kind of interesting to kind of hash that out. I probably should do a video over it. But my thought was, you have Facebook at number 1 with a bullet as the most evil. Like, that's like a de facto standard. Just because of all the misinformation, damage to society the platform itself has caused, all the stuff, and then them suppressing free speech and reinforcing regimes across the world that shouldn't be reinforced. So that's obviously the number 1. That was a pretty easy one. But when you get to number 2, it gets a little harder, and that's where it's like you're trying to like gauge which big tech firm is the worst out of all of them. After Facebook. Because Facebook, easy, right? Number 2, you have, well, Activision and EA don't even equate to the market share and the influence of the big 5. The big 5 are just hands down just amazing. Like, the amount of influence they have is just crazy. Each one probably has some benefits too. It's not to say they're just, none of these are like pure evil. I mean, maybe Facebook, you can make an argument, but most of them, there's good that they do. It's just which ones do more evil than good. And I think number 2 is hard for me because I really like them. And that I would probably put Amazon as number 2. And hear me out here. Hear me out. I know you're like Microsoft, Apple, all this other stuff. But Amazon, I think, has done more damage in the competition space because they ran at such a razor-thin margin for so long. They were... it was almost like a Walmart strategy on steroids. And here in the States, what happened, Walmart moved in and basically killed a lot of stores and traditional retail where that wouldn't have happened. And Amazon's like done the same, but more in a larger net almost, where they've killed so much competition. And then they've also stifled innovation and stolen too from companies because they've taken products and made like their Amazon basic product based on theirs and stifled out that company or stamped them out. That caused a lot of damage. Like, you look at how much damage Amazon's done, it's quite substantial. So that was like my number 2. And then number 3 and 4, it gets even harder because then you got Microsoft, Apple, and Google, right? Those big 3 kind of all just kind of clustered in there. And this is where you're like, maybe like Apple, you got the right to repair and a lot of the impacts that all that waste is done because they're so greedy and they don't want their users repairing their equipment. They want them coming out and buying more of it. And that's added a lot of e-waste, which there's environmental impacts from that and all kinds of shenanigans. So Apple's pretty bad. Microsoft, you would think I could find a lot more wrong with Microsoft, and like, we're talking like world problems with it. Past the 90s and a lot of the stifling of innovation and how ruthless they were during the Bill Gates era, like the 90s to early 2000s, the past 10 or 15 years, I can't really point to one specific instance where I'm like, whoa, that's super evil. A lot of it is just like, So that's Microsoft, and maybe chat can help me out with that. I'm having a hard time putting up a case on Microsoft. And then you got Apple, which we talked about, right to repair, so it's kind of like number 3. But then you got Google. And Google, again, like Microsoft, I'm having problems coming up with like just terrible things that Google has done. I mean, yes, there's things like search manipulation and other things, and they've done their own bit of anti-competitiveness. But just overall, have they really done anything just absolutely terrible? I mean, invasion of privacy, security, sure, maybe to a bit. But then again, they give away all their stuff for free. And everything is, you got to pay a price. So it's kind of funny. To me, it's almost like Apple is number 3. And then I just don't know what to do with Microsoft and Google because I can't just outrightly say they're just pure evil because of this. Like, I can easily pin it on those top 3. Pretty easy. But Microsoft and Google, that's something I was trying to think about, and I really I couldn't. I mean, I don't particularly like some of the stuff they do, but past my emotions and my opinions, what have they done that's really negatively impacted the world? The antitrust era for Microsoft, you got your WordPerfects that got stamped out, you got your Netscape Navigator that got stamped out, but we're talking the 90s. I mean, that's pretty old. Yeah. So, I mean, that's like one of the fun things. Well, that's the thing. Like, I see Google is a division of the CIA. Well, all social media is a division of the CIA. I mean, everyone freely gives out their data. I mean, that's true. Here's TitusPi, by the way. We're still installing. Oh wait, we're on the wrong. Let's switch back to the Pi. The algorithm is not going to like this episode. Well, I private everything on this stuff, so we can talk about pretty much whatever. So, yeah. But, I mean, that's the thing. I'm just like, you know. That's like my rankings as I see it. That poor Pi, man. That SD card's going to blow up. Yeah, I mean, Google's probably the cleanest out of all of them, surprisingly enough. I mean, we're comparing it to Facebook. We're comparing it to Apple. We're comparing all these, and that's the thing is, like, when you take your emotions and your opinions out of it, like, outright just straight up caught with your hand in the cookie jar kind of thing, Google's done a good job of dancing that line. Microsoft, as of late, has done a really good job of walking that line. It's not to say they don't do anything bad, because they definitely do, but yeah, food for thought. Yeah, self-hosting streaming, I actually looked into it, like doing it on like ChrisTitus.com. Man, you would not believe how expensive that is. To self-host with bandwidth, let's say I got like 1,000 users, it almost equates to about $1 a user in monthly costs. I kid you not. So I'd have to spend like $1,000 just to self-host. No, I'm not using a KVM switch. I'm actually just using it's like a HDMI selector, and then I use some Synergy to go between all the computers, because all of my monitors host the computers themselves, and then I have one input to my capture card, but I have a remote right here that selects between all 4 of my computers. So if I want to display my card, let's see, switch to my main PC, I hit number 1, and it should switch over to that. There is a little delay. If I hit number 2, that's my Raspberry Pi, or usually it's like my Mac, but I repurposed that one for today's video, which is the Pi. Then I have number 3, which I don't remember what 3 or 4 were. I've kind of consolidated in recent years. We'll have to fix that error too, by the way. But yeah, interesting. Specs on the Pi are low. So this is an old Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 3. The Raspberry Pi 3 has 750 megs of usable memory. So not even a gig. So we're sub 1 gig. But I mean, you can still use it. Like, let's come back to number 1. And let's go. We got our different workspaces. So I could launch another terminal or whatever over here. And yeah, it's pretty usable. I mean, for that, let's launch another terminal and see what happens. Let's go here. Let's launch another terminal. It's gonna be a little laggy since we're installing a bunch of stuff. Let's do a Neo fetch over here. Wendell from Level 1 Text was talking about a $60K dollar problem from previous week. It'd save a lot in hosting. I don't know if you can actually post a link in chat. I think I have that blocked off from a global level. And sadly, I don't have like a permit. But this is what we're rocking on this Raspberry Pi. But yeah, I mean, you could always just say, hey, check out this video. But you can't do a direct link. Well, actually, maybe you can. Shows a show hide. Let's see. Come on. Show. Oh, okay. Well, that one showed. So usually it outright blocks. Oh, But yeah, that's where we're at. And then if we flip back to number 2, shows our install progress. We're getting there. We'll do an update after this just to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll say all packages are up to date. We've done, but now you understand when you're updating Debian, you got to make sure you didn't have a whole bunch of packages fail, because the first update we did, it had 600 packages that got dropped because of a dependency problem. And if I would have rebooted, it would have been game over for this whole install. So, oh, wrong keyboard. I like my split keyboard. I like Masuna's. So let's go sudo apt update. Three packages. That's pretty good. What are those? Oh, just compile utilities. That should go right through then. We'll go ahead and toss those in there. All right, that looks good. Oh, wait, no. The following packages have been kept back. I wonder why. We might do a reboot. It does look like they're already on those versions, or just very, very seldomly off of them. So, all right. With that, let's do a sudo apt dist upgrade just to make sure. I don't think we'll have any packages here other than those 3. Right? Following new packages. I mean, I guess we can go ahead and do that. Should be fine. But that won't take very long. That's just one package. Well, I see something on here. How come you don't upload to Odyssey anymore? Mainly just because I didn't see a point in it. A lot of people, not to shoot down Odyssey, I think it's a great backup service for many people that don't have proper backups. But as far as like engaging with the Odyssey community and that type of thing, it wasn't there for me. So I just like, okay. And I just didn't know what they were going to do with the platform. There's some stuff they happened that I was just like, I don't know. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was just like, I'd rather just kind of put it all on hold and then until I figure something out. I mean, it's not to say I wouldn't use Odyssey. It's just, I just kind of want to see what happens with the platform before I continually upload to it. Because I just kind of want to, again, left a little bit of a hesitancy with me, and that's why I stopped uploading to it. All right, one more update. I just want to see, I would like this to just be like 3 packages again, and then we'll call it good. Yeah, and Greg, I mean, it's not to say I would never come back to Odyssey. I just kind of want to see where that goes. And then make a decision after I know more. Because right now, it's just, there's, I think that one weird thing that they're trying to do with it, and I just, I want to see what happens with the SEC investigation with LBC, and see what happens with there. But also, I know they're transitioning to, I think, a dollar model instead of using that as that. There's just a lot of back-end stuff that they're working on that I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. So I just left it off. I was like, all right. Who thinks this is going to actually reboot? We've upgraded this thing I don't know how many times. We've done an entire distribution upgrade from Debian 10 to Debian 11. I think we worked out most of the dependencies, hopefully. And let's see what happens. Do you think playing YouTube or Twitch on a Raspberry Pi will finally be good? I don't think so. I think it just lacks the video horsepower for it. I started building on a... my next build for a Nano PC like the Pi is going to be on the Jetson Nano. The Jetson Nano has plenty of GPU horsepower to do all those things. So I'm curious to see what happens with it. All right. So we're back on the desktop. Looks like it took the upgrade pretty good. Let's go launch into our terminal and do another update and then see how it is. I will say TitusPi, I think I'm going to revise what I've said about it, and I'm going to say don't run it on a Pi 3 because this is laggy. I mean, we only have 740 megs of memory, but it's laggy. And I don't feel like rebuilding this whole thing just for the Pi 3, because I don't think very many people are using the Pi 3 these days. But you never know. But there we go. We're on the Bullseye branch now. Let's do an update. And then let's see if we can't get these last two packages cleaned up. And then this should be pretty good. Now we could have gone up to like Bookworm too for this. Yeah, Pi 3 is still good for emulation. I mean, Pi 4 is still a lot better, but yeah, it's true. All right, let's do an upgrade. So CPP 8 and GCC base. So what we could do here, let's do a remove, and then let's just grab these two packages. Let's put those in. And what we're going to do is remove them and then re-add them. So we'll remove them. That should get rid of those. And then we simply re-add the packages. This should hopefully clear any dependency problems and stuff we have. So then we go apt install. And grab those guys. And the reason for this is if you don't have a clean update or you're getting lots of warnings on your updates, you need to look into those warnings and then fix those warnings. Because you never know when you're going to need those to compile something or do something with a program. So always look at, if you're having packages held back that against your will, so to speak, you need to figure out why. And for this, the easiest thing I found to do is to remove them as long as they're not like a super dependency. I don't know if that's the actual term, but I'm going to call it a term. And what that is, a dependency that everything relies on. Because if you remove that dependency, everything breaks. But since these are just utility programs, it's really easy to just remove them and then re-add them. So now if we do a sudo apt update, we should have all packages are up to date. Might set up that X screensaver. Let's figure that out first now. Let's go to a new workspace and let's go X screensaver, I think it is. Let's change that. Let's go screensaver. And we got the GL matrix happening. Blank after, let's go 10 minutes here. All right. That seems good. And file. All right, cool. We can change some of like the settings of this if we wanted. But that should be pretty good. Yes?
Hi, Daddy.
Oh, hey, bud, I'm streaming.
We came back from eating some pizza, and also we got the tickets, by the way.
Oh, sweet. All right. Well, I'll be in a minute.
All right.
Thanks, bud. All right, let's fix that so we're not constantly hitting our screensaver. Probably should have done that first. So we got all our packages up to date. Everything looks good. Probably some further customizations I would do is switch out Terminator for Kitty, some other things. But right now, I think this is pretty good. I'll also probably put like a recommendation that for the TitusPi, I highly recommend a Raspberry Pi 4. Is this Raspberry Pi 3? It works. It's just slow. And that's mainly because of, well, it doesn't even have a gig of memory. And that is just, that's just brutal. Also, another thing we should do is an auto clean. Let's clean up some of this too. Let's see what we have. Sudo apt auto remove. We should have a bunch of packages here. Yeah. Let's clear up some of this space. There's a command on Windows that allows you to sync files between folders that are useful for cloud storage. It's equivalent to that in Linux. For Windows, probably on that one, bin. RoboForm I've used a lot. RoboForm allows threading, so you can actually do multiple copies at the same time. And that's pretty good. For Linux, I use rsync. Rsync's really good for Linux. Yeah, honestly, USB for the Pis is clutch. Using a SD card for the Pi kind of sucks. I hate SD cards. I really hate SD cards. I think they're just trash storage. If I'm going to do a lot of stuff on a Raspberry Pi, I would use an SSD for sure. It's so much better. How to set wallpaper using Fey and WSL2. Yeah, so Fey and a lot of the Linux programs don't interact that well with Windows, period, using WSL. Yeah, Fey's not too bad. I think Nitrogen's probably a little bit more user-friendly, but I don't know. Fey and Nitrogen are almost interchangeable to me. All right, guys. I think one more reboot. Let's just do an apt update. It should look really clean. We shouldn't see any extra packages. It should just say everything's up to date. And that's a proper way to upgrade your system. Clear out any orphan packages. And then, let's see. Yep, perfect. We'll go ahead and do just like a sudo apt upgrade just so you can see that should be the same. Very clean, no warnings, no errors, everything's zeros across the board. That's exactly what we want. And we can quit that out. Let's go ahead and launch our browser, see what that time looks like. I know on this, Chrome does not like having 200 megs. A lot of people are like, why are you using Chrome and not Brave? Brave does not have an ARM version, and Chrome does. That's why. So that's the big thing. And there we go. Slower than dirt on this Pi 3, but I think I'll just put a recommendation on TitusPi to be Raspberry Pi 4 with some decent memory. Any Raspberry Pi 4 will work. I think what's the low end of Pi 4 is like 4 gigs. I know the higher end that has like 8 gigs of memory, but any Raspberry Pi 4 should just knock this out of the park. Be pretty much like a full desktop replacement. I think if you do... This is a cheat sheet for TitusPi. We should do Control Super R to reload, L to log out, Control Shift Super S to shut down. Does that work? Maybe not. Might need to look at that command because I think it might have changed a little bit. because I don't think power off works anymore. I want to say Debian 11 changed it. I could be wrong, though. Yeah. So, like, if I do power off... Okay, so power off doesn't work. What about sudo power off? Maybe permissions? Huh. Interesting. Maybe make an alias for that. Or I could just change the shortcut. But regardless, TitusPi has been updated. Maybe a little weird stream today with some of the stuff we've been doing. I know we got a little off track with some of the conversation, but you never know where it goes. We did get everything upgraded and got everything going. So it's a cool little thing. I think a lot of people, one thing I'd say a big takeaway from today's stream is upgrading Debian. This was kind of a cautionary tale. Just upgrading the package. We did a first upgrade. It was like 1,500 packages going from Buster to Bullseye, which was 10 to 11. But with that, we had over 500 packages fail because of a dependency problem. So we had to resolve that dependency problem in the middle and then rerun that update. And we did that about 3 times before we got a bulk majority of the packages. And then we still had a couple stragglers kind of lagging behind. And we removed those, re-added them from the repository, and now we got a perfect thing. We also had a bad repository that we cleaned up that used to be online a year ago, but no longer exists. So we removed that repository. And these are just some good housekeeping tools. And when I say you can't break Debian, every time I have a working Debian system and I do something crazy like this, at the end, it usually just goes, ha, yeah, that's all you got. And it just keeps trucking. So that's a kind of a cool one. Oh, man, I tell you. But Tuesday, we'll continue the Debian project and upgrading the stream. And we'll have a fun one with that. Always good talking with everybody. Thanks so much for all the feedback we had going on. It was great. Yeah, sometimes I can get off in the weeds a little bit. But with that, guys, I'll see y'all in the next one. I'm going to go get some pizza, apparently, that got brought in. That sounds absolutely amazing. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.